Athens. But on Tuesday, Britain's Culture Secretary said any return of the panels would represent a slippery cultural slope. Professor Christy Konstantakopoulou of Birkbeck University is a member of Greece's National Hellenic Research Foundation.
The Ottomans did indeed give the permission to Lord Elgin to remove the marbles, but the question is, whose ownership are the marbles now? And I find it very perplexing and indeed insulting, the argument that the marbles are not safe in Athens. This stands on a basis of basically cultural supremacy over thefts of antiquities and ideologies and the very culture and tradition of peoples that they were considered inferior.
Last month, another museum in London agreed to return ancient bronzes looted in 1897 from the city of Benin, now part of Nigeria, and the Nigerian authorities want American museums to follow suit. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again of the week. The US and Russia agreed a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested. And in the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff race in Georgia, giving President Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Following morning reports indicating that Philadelphia High School for the Performing Arts student Samantha Bylam deals with really weird social pressures on a daily basis, Onion reporters met with the 16-year-old dance student who described feeling regularly alienated from her peers for extremely bizarre reasons.
If you're not up to date on the latest urban street art or Esperanza Spalding albums, the other students will eat you alive. It can get pretty brutal. Just the other day, everyone cut class to go watch the $1 Million Quartet musical at the Forest Theater, but nobody told me. Now I'm the only one that hasn't seen Lance Guest's rendition of Folsom Prison Blues. It's humiliating.
According to Bylam, the school year shows no sign of letting up as she continues dealing with the everyday stresses of auditioning for the school's production of My Fair Lady, keeping up with the latest punk Afrofusion dance groups, and not having enough fishnet sleeves to wear throughout the week.
Honestly, I don't know how the other students deal with it.
Keep checking theonion.com for more as this story develops.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is Free Talk Live. The telephone number here in the studio, 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. It looks like I am having a techniculty, and that's okay. The cameras are not showing the current view there. We'll get our crack team of producers on that. But it is the Saturday edition of Free Talk Live. Ian Freeman has the night off.
He's going to spend a lovely holiday evening with his new wife.
And he should.
Yes.
Absolutely, considering...
And she should make cookies.
She should. Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking. Have you had her snickerdoodles?
I have not, because I've been on the diet, if you will.
Yeah.
Now, I dropped about 30 pounds last year in the first 3 months of the year. I'm up like 7 from that, because I sort of got
from
off... from the 30.
From the low.
From the low, yeah.
Okay.
I'm up like 7 because I got off the diet around the Turkey Day.
Yep.
And, had stuffing and cookies and potatoes.
It's holidays.
Some things are just worth it.
Rice and, pasta. Like, I know that's not Turkey Day stuff, but I'm like, well, if I'm off the diet.
When are you going back on the diet?
Well, I'm kind of half back on it right now. The thing that I haven't done is quit the drinking. The drinking seems to, interfere with the weight loss. So, So if I continue eating the style,
that's why I quit drinking.
the style that I have, I can maintain the weight loss, but I don't continue to lose. It's only when I quit the drinking that I continue to lose. So I'm just going to sort of muddle through the holidays here.
Yeah.
I'm sort of on the diet until
I think
call
that's
it
fair.
Christmas.
So you want to quit drinking so you can be a loser?
Yes. One time in my life, I set out to be a loser, and
it begins by stopping alcohol.
I actually succeeded. So if you set out to become a loser and you succeed, have you failed?
I don't know.
Yeah. At any rate,
how do you win that? That's a no-win situation.
Well, it's a win for me because health is a factor. I come from a family of large people, and so this is I'm one of the smaller ones.
Is that a Wisconsin thing?
Well,
I mean, just a captain. Is that a kick-ass thing?
A little of both, I think, because the family is generations of Wisconsin, and you go all the way back until like folks came over from like Germany on like the boats, or there's some French Canadian in my family as well, so they came through kind of the same way on the boats, and came up through Canada and that kind of a thing. There's a little bit of Swedish in my family somewhere because I can't
imagine that you're in the in Wisconsin or Minnesota without having some.
Yeah, they call it the Midwestern look for a reason.
Right. And like the diet and the culture there is all like beer, bratwursts, right?
And
sausages, cheese, it's all the carbs, right? Potatoes, rice, pasta, that kind of a thing. So there's a bit of a cultural thing to it, but we'll call it genetic family, all are predisposed to being fat bastards. And so I'm trying to be one of the slim ones, and I'm doing, for the rest of my family, I'm doing fine. For regular everyday people, I'm not, right? So like, it's, how do you want to look at it, right? Either way, I'm trying to improve my health, so...
But I think that it's fair to take off during the holidays. I mean, people are going to be, the pushers are going to be pushing everything that there is to push upon you in this time frame. And you might as well, if you already know the secret to weight loss for yourself, which is, mind you, a valuable piece of information.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If you know the secret to weight loss for yourself, then at the very least, you know how you can implement it. And you can go back on December 26th or January 2nd.
It'll be January 2 when I... quit the drinking again and go back on the diet hardcore for at least 3 months.
Did you find headaches were an issue when you began drinking again?
I had none of that.
Okay, good.
In fact, I expected my tolerance to be lowered because, I have a kind of a high tolerance, being the type of person that I am, rock and roll guy. I've been drinking since I was 12 years old, basically. And I've obtained a pretty high tolerance. There's not a whole lot of people. Peakless and I have gone drink for drink at Pork Fest.
Peakless is one of the biggest men I've ever met in my life.
And he can keep up with me.
And muscles and bone, just handle alcohol better.
Yeah.
So,
but I think
if you can go drink for drink with Peakless,
no, I think I got him.
You're beating him in of greater.
He does actually have me by a little, which is saying something.
Yeah, it's saying
like
a lot.
Maybe like one. if it's a scale of 1 to 10.
You see, I outdrank everyone in Colorado. Had to go outsource my competition
to the state with the #1 alcohol sales per person.
So
and that's why they can't legalize cannabis.
in Wisconsin, like keg parties are so popular, even like before kids go to college and that kind of a thing, that like you go to these keg parties and there's 3, 4, 5, 10 kegs depending on the party that you go to. And so then I go to Minneapolis for audio engineering, right? I stayed there for a couple, 2-3 years, but like the drinking culture is still there too. I moved to Seattle, and the first year that I'm there, I get invited to like a New Year's party. And it's at some like bike courier service. It's a garage underneath a building where they've just sort of moved everything out of the way. And they're like, yeah, we're going to have like 3 bands here and there will be beer. And I'm like, oh, really? And they're like, yeah, the keg is going to be set up. And I'm like, sorry, keg? right, singular, and like, yeah, and of course they ran out, right?
Like shocking, right?
And they knew no different.
But like, it was myself and a couple other dudes who moved with me from the Midwest, who were all avid drinkers by 22, 23 years old, however old we were when I moved there, and all the other people who are drinking are like, there's some people passed out, there's a girl puking because she had 2 beers or whatever, and the 3 of us are just standing there after our like 10th beer or something going pointing at everybody, laughing at them, look at these lightweights, right? Kind of a thing. So there's definitely a drinking culture
doing
involved.
That alcoholic laugh.
yeah So alcohol interferes with weight loss, at least for me personally. And so among other things, right? But what it does is it actually interrupts the body's ability to either get into ketosis if you're going with the keto, or its ability to burn fat because it just sort of interrupts all the other processes. Your body will take the alcohol and process it first before doing anything else, and so it needs to sort of
the liver needs to go to work
itself.
immediately on that.
Right.
Yeah, it's one of those things that always struck me when it's like, oh, only 5 carbs, 0 carbohydrates, and it's like, okay,
well,
yeah,
net carbs,
but it's alcohol.
Right.
Alcohol is literally fuel, and your body treats it like fuel.
Yeah, it doesn't happen to everybody. Like some people can get on these things and lose weight and drink. Right? There's like Tim Ferriss put together something that is sort of a variation of the ketosis diet. It allows legumes, for example. It relies heavily on refried beans, that type of a thing, and like actually says have a glass, maybe 2 glasses of wine every night. Right? He's like just do it. Like Tim Ferriss put together this thing where like instead of going to like doctors and physicians, he went and surveyed like people, like what worked for you, what worked for you, what worked for you. And he took the results of all these surveys of people, of what worked for them, and put together, generally speaking, the most common things that worked for people to lose weight, put together a diet based on those things, tried it himself along with several other people, found that it worked for that particular test group, and then published it was part of a book that he wrote. If you're not familiar with Tim Ferriss, go ahead and search him online.
I'm not familiar with it.
He's a smart dude.
But I can tell you it's basically the opposite of what I did to lose weight. I went from 215 to 180, 85, thereabouts. And I did it by quitting alcohol, doing saunas, and doing cold plunges.
Oh, nice.
So if you sit in there as long as possible, your body has to work really hard in that cold plunge to heat you back up.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
But that's what the sauna's for.
Like different things work for different people. I tried the Tim Ferriss diet pretty hardcore before I moved here when I was in Seattle. And I lost, 10 pounds in 90 days. And I'm like, it's not really what I'm looking for, right? I hear about all these people getting on these different things, carnivore and keto and all these things, like just dropping
that keto, you can drop weight fast.
And that's what worked for me last year. I got on the keto thing. I just cut out all the carbs. I didn't do any of the keto substitutes either, right? There's all this crap out there that like
bars,
keto bread and keto wraps, and I'm like,
zero net carbs.
Yeah, I'm just not going to do any of that. I'm just going to not eat carbs, period. And lo and behold, it worked. So 603-283-6160. We'll get to your calls and thoughts. I see we have somebody on hold right now. It's the Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. Give us a call. Bring up anything you want to. More coming up.
Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191. The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Hey, it is Free Talk Live. It is the Saturday night edition. Ian Freeman has the night off. For what reason, you might ask? Perhaps you haven't tuned into Free Talk Live all week, or even the week before, or perhaps you're just discovering Free Talk Live right now. You've jumped in your car, you're in a rental car or something, and station was on, and now you're hearing Free Talk Live. Mr. Freeman has been under the gun of the federal government at what we're calling the Crypto 6 trial. And so he's been through a hell of a week.
You can find out more at thecrypto6.com.
Yes, please visit thecrypto6.com. And I have a message to anybody who's come to New Hampshire for the Greater Freedom Movement, but I think we'll talk about that maybe top of hour 2 or hour 3. At any rate, he's sort of had a hell of a week, and so we thought, hey, you know what? Take a day off, enjoy it, enjoy Saturday with your wife. You guys have...
I'm still not used to calling Bonnie his wife. I married them. I'm not used to it.
She seems to enjoy it.
You wed them. This isn't Utah.
That's true. You're right. I wed them.
In the studio tonight, it is myself, the Lord Reverend Dr. Captain Kickass Buckshot Esquire, if you will, joining me.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Mark Edge. Founder of Free Talk Live.
Thanks to Mark Edge for joining us tonight and also just being here. I know you wouldn't miss it, but I'm sure it means a lot to not only Ian, but everybody else that you're here.
People seem to be happy that I'm here.
Yeah.
Hey, I want to ask you something before we jump in. Free Talk Live this year won the most prestigious award in radio. Sorry for all the Marconi winners out there. This was the Freedom of Speech Award. Now, maybe the Marconi is more prestigious. It's possible. Depends on what you decide, what prestige is. But it's certainly not as exclusive as the Freedom of Speech Award.
Yeah, for me, it's the Freedom of Speech Award. And then when you told me that Ian was going to be presented this award for his work at Free Talk Live, I went and looked at the list of people who've been awarded it prior to him. That's some good company.
Yeah, Howard Stern, Rush Limbaugh, the biggest names. I received it on Ian's behalf, and when they gave it out, he said that he gave it to Free Talk Live, to Ian, to Free Talk Live, and he would have given it to Mark if I hadn't refused it. Right.
Right.
And I did refuse it. I wanted Ian to receive the award solely.
And as well he should. I agree with your decision.
However, since Free Talk Live received it, I'm a bit more vain than Ian, and I know it. So I'm in the process right now.
Probably a wise decision not to take the award then.
So I'm in the process right now, and I want to know what your feedback is on this, of designing myself my own ring trophy, like a Super Bowl ring, as it were. And I just want to know how do I justify this? How do I make myself not look quite as vain? Like, I'm very proud of winning this award, and it's the most prestigious
award. I thought
award.
we all agreed you didn't win this award.
Free Talk Live won it, and therefore, by proxy, all of us have won it.
So here's what you do: is you just make a miniature version of the award that's the size of a ring.
Ooh, I like it.
The award itself is
that way it's like it's the consolation prize off the game show, right? You get the home version.
The prize itself is just basically one of those hexagonal pieces of, glass or whatever. I mean, it in and of itself isn't the kind of thing that would be particularly noticeable, but the award has been given to some, very close-knit people, and I don't know. I'm doing it, and I want to know, how do I justify this to people?
603-283-6160 if you have any ideas for Mark.
There's no justification for anything that you do. But that being said, if it were me, I would call up the people that are always trying to convince you to get a class ring and be like, here's what I want. I need it hexagonal. I need it to have these words printed on it, and I want this, and this gemstone like this. Because why not?
That's precisely what I did.
and what you may want to do too, to sort of limit the vanity, even though you've already said, hey, I'm pretty vain about this kind of thing, is just make several of them and award them to other Free Talk Live co-hosts, if you will.
Oh, they aren't cheap.
Maybe you can find cheap ones. I don't know. Ones that suffice the co-host.
You're right. That's an idea.
Or whatever. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We actually have Dave Ridley of Ridley Report on with us. Dave, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys. So I have this theory that in civil resistance or civil protest or whatever, distance can be a magnifier. I'm in Colorado right now visiting, so I can't be at the trial in Concord of Ian. So I'm just going to walk down to, I guess you guys have a demonstration scheduled on Monday around 4:45.
Correct. Yeah, it's supposed to kick off at 5 p.m. at the courthouse in Concord. All that information is at thecrypto6.com.
So I guess I'll just go to my nearest federal building, federal courthouse, and just protest there.
Please.
And I would like to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I said please do. That's an excellent idea. In fact, if there are other people who, for whatever reason, cannot be in New Hampshire to attend the, it's the closest thing we have to an official protest for the Crypto 6 trial is on Monday. Please, show up at your local FBI office, your local federal courthouse. Bring a sign, protest, call press, all that kind of thing.
I'm against showing up at your local FBI office, for the record, just on principle.
Go ahead, Dave.
I wanted to request, other folks to do this if they've got time. Go to, I guess the nearest federal courthouse or whatever.
So are you in Denver or?
I'm in Colorado Springs.
Oh, okay. Because I know Denver has the largest fusion center in the country.
That's too bad.
It really is. And for those listeners not aware of what a fusion center is, because of 9/11, they figured, all of these different government agencies just can't talk to each other well enough, so we need to have specialized centers to make sure that we're completely keeping an eye on everyone all the time.
Another place for information to get lost.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or to be stored and then dug up on you the next time anybody in the federal government needs, some reason to point at you. Right, they can reach back into your past decades ago and point at, this little thing that has really no relevance to whatever's going on now and go, see? Ha-ha!
Yep, running torture chambers isn't enough. They have to suck the local lakes dry, like in Utah, I guess, to run their supercomputers, to cool their supercomputers that that are watching us.
Yeah, I remember that was such a great story of complicity, because if the state just decided, we're not going to give you the water that it takes to cool the supercomputer to spy on every American citizen all of the time, they could have. They almost did, but no. They're going to keep providing that water. They're going to keep helping their owners.
Dave?
That is all.
Hey, thanks for the call, man. We appreciate you, and thank you for your assistance in sharing the protest. 603-283-6160 is the telephone number. Still to come tonight, a spoonful of sugar helps the radioactive oatmeal go down. What's that all about?
It's a good title.
We'll find out coming up. It's Free Talk Live. It's the Saturday night edition, 603-283-6160.
My name is Angel Rach. I'm a mother of 2 teenage children, and I fought all the way to the Supreme Court for the right to use the medicine that saved my life. I've been permanently disabled for 10 years, with an inoperable brain tumor, wasting syndrome, and several other serious conditions. For 4 years, I was in a wheelchair, in so much pain, I couldn't even hug my kids. The hardest part was looking in their eyes and seeing how much they were suffering because of my medical condition. The medicine that gave me my life back and gave my kids their mom back was cannabis, also known as medical marijuana. With medical marijuana, I can walk, maintain my weight, and I can be a mom. Without it, my doctors believe that I would die. To learn more about medical marijuana, contact Marijuana Policy Project at 1-877-JOIN-MPP or on the web at mpp.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This was the week that US and Russia agreed to a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. The White House secured her release in exchange for Russian arms trafficker Viktor Bout, who was serving a 25-year sentence in a US prison. Griner flew back to her home state of Texas, and FSN's Tony Waterman was there for her arrival in San Antonio.
Brittany Griner touching down here in San Antonio in the early hours of Friday morning. She has since been transferred to the Brooke Army Medical Center here behind me, where she is undergoing a routine medical evaluation before being reunited with her family. Her wife Sherelle and her parents are expected to be here for that reunion, but today is really just day one in what is going to very likely be a long journey.
This week, Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested by police. Investigators said a far-right group was planning to storm the country's parliament and seize power. FSN's Trent Murray sent this report from Berlin.
25 suspects were arrested during the dawn raids, which occurred early Wednesday across 11 different states in Germany. The country's Prosecutor General said that the arrests were part of a large anti-terror operation which was investigating a suspected terror network from the Reichsbürger movement. They went on to say that there was suspicion that the group was planning an armed attack on, quote, constitutional or government buildings.
In the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff election in Georgia, a win that gave President Joe Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. It also provided more evidence of a changing political map in the US, as FSN's Kate Fisher reported from Washington.
For decades, the states of Florida and Ohio have carried the most sway when it comes to crowning American presidents. But Democrat Raphael Warnock's win in the previously safe Republican state of Georgia is another indicator that the road to the presidency will take a different route in 2024. Political strategists predict Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin will be crucial to deciding who goes to the White House.
This week saw the first episodes of a documentary series about Prince Harry and his wife Meghan released on Netflix. FSN's Julia Chapman sent this report from London.
In the first 3 episodes of the series, Harry and Meghan describe their love story. The Duke of Sussex says he was looking for someone who could take on the baggage of being a royal, with all the scrutiny that entails. He describes how life was turned upside down for Meghan when they went public with their relationship. Harry describes his wife as being similar to his mother, Princess Diana, saying both are full of compassion.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
Thank you for tuning in. It's free, as in unhindered. It's talk, as in conversation. And it's live, as in happening right now. If it's between 7 p.m. and 10 p.m. Eastern Time and you're listening to this, the phone lines are open. The telephone number is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Bakeless Mountaineer.
And Mark.
Ian Freeman has the night off. I don't know why I just like saying that.
It's a point of pride.
It just sounds like one of those like old school news television things. Like whenever Walter Cronkite was doing a thing, they'd be like, I'm Tom Brokaw, sitting in for Walter Cronkite, who has the night off. Right? You know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I got that feeling just when you were saying it.
Yeah. At any rate, I want to talk about this horrendous thing that the government has done to unsuspecting children with learning disabilities.
Oh, you mean school?
A very specific type of school. You know how, like, if you went to public school, I know I did, there were some kids who were, we'll just say, more challenged at learning than others, at least within, this sort of factory environment of schools. And so the public school system thought, why, it'd be a great idea if we just took those types of kids and put them in their own separate special school, right? This is known as many things depending on the time in which you were brought up as a child, but I think the politically correct term is a gifted school.
No, I don't think. I think gifted suggests something different.
I think it does too, but I think that they've fallen under like that type of a moniker recently. But I don't know.
So they usually divide it into special needs and gifted and talented.
Right.
And it's only been recently that gifted and talented is considered to be special needs, which kind of duh. Like, obviously, if you are difficult to challenge, you have special needs. But
when I was growing up, the 8 to 10-year-olds who had to go to this school, if they were in regular school and they disappeared, like, where did Bob go? And they're like, oh, he's at the retarded school. Right, that's what the 8 to 10-year-olds called it. Now the special school, the whatever the terminology is, I'm using politically correct terminology to describe this because
just to be clear, I have a picture that I've saved on my computer just for these instances of President Kennedy standing in front of a sign for like the school for retarded kids or something like that. Because at one point, we used terminology. Retarded was a step up from the terminology that was used at the time.
It was politically correct terminology to refer to special needs students.
Right, to what at the time before that they called morons, idiots, and a variety of imbeciles and a variety of terms.
Which they actually had a technical definition for how below average you were would qualify you as an idiot, a moron, or an imbecile.
Right. Which one are you? I'm an idiot, not a moron or an imbecile, though.
And so there was a time when retarded was the medical terminology for this thing. It was like saying you have influenza instead of the flu, right? That was the politically correct term for a period of time.
Well, and man, the terms used to be so much better. Because, so even retarded, it literally means held back or slowed.
Right.
And slow is the perfect terminology for all of this. Like, there's quick people and slow people. And that really is, so there's two major parts of intelligence. There's how what they call crystallized intelligence, which is how much information you can, hold in your head and access easily.
So that's like the hard drive, right? Hard drive size.
Retention.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And then there's one that's basically your processor speed.
Right. So your RAM size.
And your processor, which is what they call fluid intelligence, which is just literally how quick you are at thinking.
And by the way, it changes day to day and over your life.
Right.
So you're just not as fast as you were at 50 as you were, or I should say at 80 as you were at 50, and 50 as you were at 25.
And also physical things can affect that as well. And
things you eat.
Well, I'll give you an example. The first time I tried to move to New Hampshire, I got into a horrendous car accident and flipped my 4Runner and the trailer I was towing behind it, and I bonked my head several times in the process of doing so. And also, I was getting older, so between the two of those, I really feel like I got dumber, that week. Right, I felt a decrease in my cognitive abilities.
Do you think you stepped up at any point back to where you were, or were you just there? This is the new normal.
No, this is the new normal. Yeah, it's just kind of been that way since then. And I've done things to try and compensate for it. I was given the gift of speed reading via public schools. They taught me how to do that by pulling me out of some classes, putting me with some other students that they wanted to try and teach us speed reading, and so they did. And so I have ways of working around that. If I want to read something, I can skim and pull the main facts and pass a quiz, that kind of a thing, after skimming an article, rather than sitting down reading it in depth. What happens now when I read is I literally fall asleep. Just my brain just goes.
And then you have to read the same thing 4 different times. And,
Right. But if I put on my sort of speed reading, goggles, I can, move fast through.
It's like a stutterer who can sing but not, speak.
It feels very much like that. Also, my ability to recall isn't as quick as it used to be. Now, is some of that age? Absolutely.
Everybody will say that's age, right? That's what it's like. I had COVID a couple of years ago, and I got the brain fogs from it, and I've probably clawed my way somewhere between a half and 3/4 of the way back from where I was. Now, it's worth pointing out, I was brilliant before, and I was brilliant after. It's just that trying to get from the lower level of brilliance back to the higher level of brilliance is frustrating. So what I found is no medical treatment worked. More or less, I had to do a whole variety of different things. There was, I took some antihistamines for a little while. Supplements, certainly. I didn't think the mushrooms did anything, but they wanted me to take mushrooms. And I've done a bunch of different...
Wait. Now, are we talking
lion's
cordyceps
mane
or? Okay.
Lion's mane specifically, not psilocybin. But I would wonder whether psilocybin would allow me to rewire some things.
You might
do something
consider
like
just a microdosing regimen for a short period of time. See if that helps.
I really hate the experience of. It would have to be very micro doses. Yeah. I don't like that feeling that comes from it. I have tried microdoses of psilocybin in the past. Don't like it.
Okay.
But either way, I also did, aerobic exercise in order to increase blood flow in the brain.
Right.
And
oxygenation makes the nervous tissue grow faster.
Right.
It's actually a thing that they found to be a problem in when they have to hook someone up to oxygen is if you do it too much, your nervous system can actually overgrow and cause problems because it's growing too much in one area or ways that it shouldn't grow.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So oxygen.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oxygen it promotes nervous tissue growth.
Well, I have done a lot of this square breathing. This is 4 seconds on the intake, 8 seconds to hold it, and then 4 seconds on the exhale. And so maybe I'm getting more oxygen that way. I can tell you to make you lightheaded.
Yeah. Are you getting enough protein?
Oh, yeah. There's no problem in the consumption of animal products in my life. I just eat a lot of them.
Like some people don't get like protein will actually enhance your cognitive abilities. If you're not getting enough and you up your intake, it can increase your cognitive abilities because your brain feeds on that.
But I pretty much abandoned science, and I'll take any piece of advice at this point and try it. So it's mark at freetalklive.com for your loony brain growth ideas.
Yeah, I had a major head injury that reduced my intelligence significantly, and everything I read said you will never get back to where you were. And I said, screw you, I'm going to find a way. And I did, but eventually age has caught up with me, and like my facility at learning new languages, especially programming languages, is not what it once was.
603-283-6160. We've got your calls and thoughts coming up. Plus, a spoonful of sugar helps the radioactive oatmeal go down. That's coming up. We've got some other stories on deck and in store for you tonight. It's Free Talk Live.
Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit ShireSociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at ShireSociety.com. That's ShireSociety.com.
Should you be able to earn an honest living free from senseless government interference? The Institute for Justice thinks so. That's why we've spent years defending hard-working men and women from pointless government regulations. Nationwide, IJ has created opportunity by reducing government power. But there is still more work to be done. Visit our website today at ij.org. Let IJ take care of the government so you can take care of your business.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
So the protection of life, liberty, and property is what the Free State Project is all about. But it's an effort to move 20,000 people who understand.
It's about demonstrating to the entire country
that, yeah, we can have a free market, a truly free market. Making it just a freer, great place to live.
It's the world's largest voluntarist libertarian community, and it's only getting bigger.
That's amazing, to be able to move to a place where other people passionately believe in being free and independent.
What the Free State Project is managing to do, though, is to put their money where their mouth is. It's physically getting up across the country and saying, let's go someplace and let's demonstrate the power of these ideas. There's a lot of kind of philosophy that surrounds liberty. There's a lot of thinking about it and talking about it. But here in New Hampshire, people are doing it.
101 Reasons Liberty Lives in New Hampshire, a documentary by Free State Project Early Movers. Watch it free at 101reasonsfilm.com. 101reasonsfilm.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
I'm a little obsessed with My Magic Mud. Several years ago, I met Jessica Armand, the founder and CEO of My Magic Mud, and I didn't even know my teeth were coffee stained. A week's worth of use convinced me, and now I use it every 3 or 4 days. It's clinically proven to whiten teeth, and I think it cleans better, too. My Magic Mud's available at most local health food stores, Sprouts, Natural Grocers, CVS, Walmart's Natural Beauty Aisle, but I can get it for you for 20% off with coupon code FTL20 at mymagicmud.com. FTL20 mymagicmud.com.
Don't miss a moment of Free Talk Live. Get our archives daily via our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in and listening to this Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. If you're unfamiliar with our program, you can find out all about us over at freetalklive.com. We do have some cameras available over at watch.freetalklive.com. You can join our Odyssey channel at video.freetalklive.com. We are primarily a nationally broadcast, nationally syndicated radio program, but we also stream live. We also have a podcast version. We're on some satellite stations in Africa somewhere, sub-Saharan Africa kind of a thing, and
North America.
And North America as well. So you could be listening to us in a variety of ways.
The podcast is what's really growing.
Yeah, and it will, because that's sort of the dominant form of
That's what people want to listen to at this time, at least in the United States. But I'm just stunned by the numbers that we were one of the first podcasts ever.
Yeah.
We were creating MP3 files that people could download and listen to before the word podcast was created.
Right.
Years before the word was created.
Yeah.
I think that one's kind of snuck in under most people's radar, because if you think about like the top 10 podcasts versus the top 10 network shows,
right?
I mean, podcasts just blow it out of the water, and it makes a completely different information experience, because you're discussing things in depth, and people go looking for the podcasts.
Before we go on, one of the things Free Talk Live was also first in was talking about Bitcoin at any level, pioneering, if you will, Bitcoin, at least in the Keene, New Hampshire area. I know Mr. Freeman personally has made it his mission to get Bitcoin accepted by as many merchants as he possibly could, resulting in a nice little variety of some businesses here that actually accept cryptocurrency. But Bitcoin.com is the best source for you to learn about cryptocurrency. You can go there right now, click on Get Started at the top of the page, and once you do that, you'll find all sorts of valuable information neatly organized to suit your needs. There's no longer any excuse to ignore this important and world-changing information. If you're already knowledgeable about crypto, you can check out news.bitcoin.com and get the latest headlines of all the news that's relevant to you. Bitcoin.com is your source for everything crypto, like getting a wallet, mining, trading, and all the latest cryptocurrency news on a very slick and easy-to-use website. Please visit bitcoin.com.
Now, before we go on, I want to talk about the podcast real quick.
Yeah.
You can go to freetalklive.com, and at the top of the page is there's some tabs, right? One of them says listen.
Yep.
And once you click on the little arrow, you just have to actually mouse over it, as they call it in the business. You just mouse over this arrow, and it gives you all kinds of listening options. The third one down is called the MP3 archives, where you can go listen to the podcast that's currently available, and you can sign up for the podcast there. We've made some changes as far as the podcast went, and we've made it so that what we believe is more listenable. A radio program's a radio program. We have breaks and these sorts of things, whereas a podcast is sort of uninterrupted. You start listening, you listen the whole way, and you finish listening.
Right.
And what we've done is we've employed a longtime friend of the show, Riley Blake. Blake is his last name? Yep. To modify the radio program version, cut out some bits, and make it so that you can listen. And usually you can get through the podcast in about 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, he's doing a kick-ass job too.
Yes. Kick-ass approved.
You would be the expert on that.
So there you go. Go to freetalklive.com. All the information you need is right there to listen to the podcast.
Yeah, and one thing that I absolutely adore about it is that it's completely censorship resistant. I mean, they call it really simple syndication for a reason.
Yep. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We have Bad Slave calling from New Hampshire. Bad Slave, you are on Free Talk Live.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for taking my call. I've been listening to some of the First Amendment audit recorders out there.
Sure.
And find them interesting, and one of the things I'm finding is that they've arranged it so that there's no reason for any of these LEOs, law enforcement officers, to actually need to ID you. because, if you're not committing a crime or, show great
I think you might be cutting out
evidence that crime has been committed, then there's no reason for them to give you an ID.
Yeah, one of our co-hosts, Joa, he's a First Amendment auditor, and he's on. I'm trying to remember what day he's on. Wednesdays, Thursdays, I don't remember. But he talks about, with regards to identification, when an LEO asks you to identify yourself, the only thing you're required to do is give a name. You're not required.
It depends on your state, and this is not legal advice.
Okay, but I'm just saying, like, some of the things that I've learned from him is that, depending on your state, of course, that means just giving up your name. It doesn't even have to be like your full name. Just be like,
giving your name
Bob.
is identifying yourself.
Right.
Identify yourself, sir. I am Mark Edge.
Right. It doesn't necessarily mean pulling out some sort of a state-issued document, a driver's license, a passport, something like that. Anyway, go ahead.
A lot of times they just give a first name. But the point is that, if you look beyond the pale, beyond the interaction, what actual positive benefit can anyone receive by giving that information? Because they make an entry in a database,
right?
And they're
if they do, sometimes it's just to take control of the situation. If you've got somebody who they for whatever reason they don't like what they're doing, but it's not illegal, you ask for if the LEO asks for identification, then now they've got the person doing the thing that they asked them to do. If they have to dig in their wallet and pull out a card and show it to them and that kind of thing,
right?
It just kind of diffuses the situation by their standard.
Yeah, I mean, the one benefit, like, if you are driving and you don't give them a driver's license, you will be in trouble.
That's for sure.
Well, there are people that are bridging that result as well. So, the truth is that we all truly still have a right to travel, and that driver's licenses and registrations, proofs of insurance, all of that stuff is not required to, exercise your right to travel.
I like the idea of right to travel, but I find it to be a murky subject that I have a difficult time squaring with other rights.
Well, and you also have to jump through hoops to sort of use it, right? This is a thing that you have to be knowledgeable of the laws, both at the local and the federal level. You have to be more knowledgeable than almost an attorney is at these types of things. You have to know precisely the method and order in which to say certain things in order to pronounce yourself sovereign and not a commercial entity traveling on the roads and these types of things. There are people who spend their lives dedicated to studying this stuff so that they can do it.
Right.
But
they actually have recordings of success. So
right.
I mean, we're getting back to that, and I'm really, really encouraged by that truth. I mean, all of the of my cage time that I've spent, which is short of 2 years, both jail and prison, but all of it has been because of my lack of ability to exercise my right to travel when I have not harmed anyone.
Yeah, and most people will have the same troubles that you've had because they're not knowledgeable enough. They're not, lawyer type of entities. They haven't studied on that level of how to exercise these things and in what order, because the order in which you do these things completely matters as far as when a legal trial is concerned. So the majority of people, until they study this stuff, aren't going to have the knowledge, and then you need to practice it too.
I think it's worth pointing out that a driver's license doesn't make you a better driver.
Right, and my point, and thank you for the call, Bad Slave. My point, as always, is having the right amount of knowledge or the right kind of paperwork does not make you a free man.
Hey, I appreciate the efforts of these people to bring the actual practice closer to what they say they're doing.
Agreed. 603-283-6160. More to come on Free Talk Live, including radioactive oatmeal?
Email is easy, instant, and free, and that can be real embarrassing. Email lacks the eye contact and body language you get in face-to-face conversation, or the tone of voice and other nuance you hear in a telephone conversation. Email is just words, often few words. We're all smothering in spam, so we often reply in terse fashion that's easy to misunderstand. And email doesn't cost you a postage stamp, and it lacks the deliberation time it'd take to walk to the snail mail box. So it's easy to succumb to the "oh yeah" stimulus response trap. When in doubt, don't snap back at snippy messages you get. You may have mistaken the sender's intent. And unless you're sending AOL to AOL, there's no unsend. For more tips on critical communication skills for the way things are now, hit survivalspeech.com. I'm Holland Cook.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 2 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This was the week that US and Russia agreed to a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. The White House secured her release in exchange for Russian arms trafficker Viktor Bout, who was serving a 25-year sentence in a US prison. Griner flew back to her home state of Texas, and FSN's Tony Waterman was there for her arrival in San Antonio.
Brittany Griner touching down here in San Antonio in the early hours of Friday morning. She has since been transferred to the Brooke Army Medical Center here behind me, where she is undergoing a routine medical evaluation before being reunited with her family. Her wife Sherelle and her parents are expected to be here for that reunion, but today is really just day one in what is going to very likely be a long journey.
This week, Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested by police. Investigators said a far-right group was planning to storm the country's parliament and seize power. FSN's Trent Murray sent this report from Berlin.
25 suspects were arrested during the dawn raids, which occurred early Wednesday across 11 different states in Germany. The country's Prosecutor General said that the arrests were part of a large anti-terror operation which was investigating a suspected terror network from the Reichsbürger movement. They went on to say that there was suspicion that the group was planning an armed attack on, quote, constitutional or government buildings.
In the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff election in Georgia, a win that gave President Joe Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. It also provided more evidence of a changing political map in the US, as FSN's Kate Fisher reported from Washington.
For decades, the states of Florida and Ohio have carried the most sway when it comes to crowning American presidents. But Democrat Raphael Warnock's win in the previously safe Republican state of Georgia is another indicator that the road to the presidency will take a different route in 2024. Political strategists predict Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin will be crucial to deciding who goes to the White House.
This week saw the first episodes of a documentary series about Prince Harry and his wife Meghan released on Netflix. FSN's Julia Chapman sent this report from London.
In the first 3 episodes of the series, Harry and Meghan describe their love story. The Duke of Sussex says he was looking for someone who could take on the baggage of being a royal, with all the scrutiny that entails. He describes how life was turned upside down for Meghan when they went public with their relationship. Harry describes his wife as being similar to his mother, Princess Diana, saying both are full of compassion.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking again today at the debate over the future of the Elgin marbles, those stunning panels from the Parthenon removed from Greece in the early 1800s by British soldier and diplomat Thomas Bruce, the 7th Earl of Elgin. Earlier this week, it was reported that the British Museum has made progress in discussions with the Greeks over the marbles' return to a new museum being constructed in Athens. But on Tuesday, Britain's Culture Secretary said any return of the panels would represent a slippery cultural slope. Professor Christy Konstantakopoulou of Birkbeck University is a member of Greece's National Hellenic Research Foundation.
The Ottomans did indeed give the permission to Lord Elgin to remove the marbles, but the question is, whose ownership are the marbles now? And I find it very perplexing and indeed insulting, the argument that the marbles are not safe in Athens. This stands on a basis of basically cultural supremacy over thefts of antiquities and ideologies and the very culture and tradition of peoples that they were considered inferior.
Last month, another museum in London agreed to return ancient bronzes looted in 1897 from the city of Benin, now part of Nigeria, and the Nigerian authorities want American museums to follow suit. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again of the week. The US and Russia agreed a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested. And in the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff race in Georgia, giving President Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
Zoo visitors watch the mating rituals of the ice cream shop staff, and a serious coworker puts on headphones to focus on his sandwich. Happiness is perpetually fleeting, so try to savor the next few minutes before it disappears once again. This is The Onion Week in Review. FBI officials announced they just can't bring themselves to bust a man who recently downloaded every season of the 1990s television show Picket Fences from a BitTorrent website. While stressing that pirating copyrighted material is strictly illegal, federal authorities expressed their sympathy for the man and claimed that perhaps the story of Sheriff Jimmy Brock and the strange events in a small Wisconsin town is all he has left to cling to.
We have more than enough evidence to bust him for piracy, but if the poor guy really wants to watch all 4 seasons of a 20-year-old CBS drama that nobody remembers, then he's clearly going through a pretty big rough patch right now. And frankly, we don't need to make it any worse.
For statistical purposes, we have seized all private data from your personal computer, and we are disgusted with your recent internet search history. You sick f***. For more, keep checking theonion.com.
Free Talk Live.
Yes, it is. Free Talk Live. A live radio call-in program where you can take control of the airwaves to talk about whatever's on your mind. The telephone number here in the studio to join us is 603-283-6160. Again, 603-283-6160. In the studio tonight, it's myself, the captain.
Bigless Mountaineer.
And Mark.
So I just want to take a minute here to reach out to everybody involved in any way, shape, or form with the New Hampshire Liberty Movement, with Free Talk Live, and with cryptocurrency as it relates to freedom and liberty. The time has come to cash in the favor. If Ian Freeman and Free Talk Live have done you a solid by allowing you to talk about your product, your service, or your activism on this radio station, if they've had you come in as a guest, if they've had you call in to talk about any of that, if they have attended your protest or your organized events regarding freedom, if he has helped
provided you with free downloads for 2 decades,
any of that kind of a thing, if Free Talk
you feel
Live,
gratitude.
If you feel gratitude to Ian Freeman, I implore you to join us Monday, the 12th, at the Concord Federal Building, where the federal courthouse is. The address and directions can be found at thecrypto6.com. We would love to see freedom-oriented people in support of Ian Freeman at his trial. He's facing still, up to 70 years. Is that right?
Well, it's hard to quantify, but I'd say that's about right.
That would be the max if they decide to come down harsh. So here is a person that, as far as I can tell, has never done anything outside of the non-aggression principle, who has gone out of his way.
A genuinely generous man.
A genuinely generous man who's gone out of his way to help build the infrastructure for liberty here in New Hampshire. That is all the support he's thrown behind the Free State Project, the larger liberty migration that's going on here, any of the protests that have happened, anybody else who's been in trouble, any of the other activists that he's helped. I'm calling on you. I'm cashing in your favor chip to come and show support for Ian Freeman on Monday. Now, you're like, oh, but that's only 2 days away, Captain. Well, okay, but you know what? Did he help you? Did he give you some sort of support? Are do you feel like he has given you assistance, and that like something you could do to help him out is just show up for the protest when we know that media have been invited and show your support for freedom here in New Hampshire? Yes, you can do that. You can get on a plane. You can book an Uber.
I did.
You can, there are
I
things
have no
that you
particular
can do.
reason to be in New Hampshire right now in this godforsaken cold. And I am here for the 3 weeks that I put aside 3 weeks to be here to support Ian in whatever way I can, whether it's running the show or going to his trial. I'm going to try to be there every day. I haven't been there every day, but had some things to do. But I'm working for Ian in the process.
Right.
And that's all. Is that I know that this is a difficult time for him, and I'm going to be there and support him. And that's it.
If New Hampshire is to become, as Jeremy Kaufman likes to refer to it, the libertarian homeland, well, then we need a show of numbers. We need to show people that, hey, there's a whole bunch of freedom-oriented people here that are not just going to stand idly by and let this thing happen without making it known that they disagree with what's going on.
I'll certainly be there myself.
It's time to stand up to the bully. Now, Monday is we'll call it the official protest, or the unofficial official protest. There's nothing official about it other than it's at thecrypto6.com with directions and a time. We're going to start at about 5 p.m. The suggestion is to get there about 15 minutes ahead of time, particularly if you're attending the trial. You want to leave the trial a little bit early if you want to run out to your car and get a camera and that kind of a thing to film anything. Or if you're going to bring signs and that kind of a thing, you'll want to make sure that you're there early. Parking can be, a bit of a trial. There is some free parking nearby. Again, that's all at thecrypto6.com. I implore you, if Ian Freeman and Free Talk Live have helped you in any way and helped forward your activism and, helped you become more of a freedom-oriented person, helped you move to New Hampshire, please come out and support him on Monday the 12th at 5 p.m. That's all at thecrypto6.com.
Yeah, I would really love to see as many people as possible. I think that the show of support is actually meaningful when the jury sees all those people. And at this point, all that matters is the jury, right? They see all those people. They say, how can this guy be bad? This is, frankly, I was there the first day, right? And the bailiff said, there's an overflow courtroom on the other side,
right,
so that you can see and you don't have to wear your mask. But I've never seen so many people. That the courtroom A, as it were, where everything's going on, I think it was 1 and this was 2 or 2 and 1. I'm not entirely sure. It doesn't really matter what
2
numbers
and 1.
were. Yeah, that it's full. He's like, it's full. And he has never seen it. This is a bailiff. He doesn't look young.
Yeah.
I don't have any idea when he started working at the courthouse. I didn't ask him that question. But presumably he's been there for years, and this is the fullest he's ever seen, that courtroom. And it's all over white-collar nonsense. I mean, it's not even, like, there's no victim here. They're not, the banks were listed as the victims. The banks made money.
Oh, they sure did.
Yeah.
And I don't like the, I don't know what the right word is. sort of the rope-a-dope switch that the court pulled over the last month or so with like there have been other things that have been held at the federal court building, and masks were no longer required and have been required in over a year. And all of a sudden, for this particular trial, now there's masks required if you want to sit in the main room. And if you don't want to wear a mask, they're just going to segregate you to the little kiddies table in this other room. And I'm like,
which they didn't even unlock for us, for the record.
Really?
Oh yeah, no, we had to we went into the main court because they said, okay, here's where your overflow room is, which was another courtroom. We go to the overflow courtroom and it's still locked. So we had to go to the first one.
A lot of times the overflow is empty, so I can understand why they just aren't opening it up. I'll tell you about the masks. So here's what happened. I can't say what happened before the jury was selected, but when the jury was selected, the judge, who appears to not want to wear masks.
LaPlante.
Yeah. I think it's Joe LaPlante.
It's so weird that his name is The Plant.
He would prefer not to wear masks, but he said if any jurors are more comfortable with masks, we'll all, meaning everybody in the courtroom, wear masks. Now, the person giving testimony doesn't.
Right.
And the lawyers, when talking, don't.
Right.
But those are the only times you're allowed to be maskless, other than like sort of scratching your nose or something, drinking some water in the courtroom. So it was a juror, not the judge, that decided. At least one juror, maybe a small minority is what I heard.
The judge's orders that I saw were from, late October.
Well,
so this has been in the plan for quite some time.
All I can tell you is that that it appeared when that moment in time he would have pivoted, but the jurors didn't want it.
Okay, so I say so. We've got some calls to get to. Let's go to Perry calling from California. Perry, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes, I should say to start that. In my lifetime, I know for a fact that we're not going to fix all these problems that America is facing today. However, I will say this, that the election fraud that's been going on for many years and is still going on, I think it's mostly Democrats. That's my opinion, though. Because Americans can't be that dumb to vote for somebody that says we're going to hire 87,000 new IRS agents with guns to come after us. And,
you underestimate the dumbness of Americans, in my opinion.
I'd talk to you. I'd be happy to talk about a little bit of election engineering that goes on by the Republicans, because it certainly does. The Republicans.
Both parties are corrupt. There's no doubt in my mind. Both political parties are corrupt.
Perry, can you hang on? I know you got more to say. Can you hang on?
Yes, sir.
All right, stand by. We'll talk to Perry more about election fraud and all sorts of other problems here in the so-called United States of America. Coming up on Free Talk Live, 603-283-6160.
Free Talk Live.
For the listeners, each talk show has like you're in the Joe Blow Army, or, the Ditto Heads. Do the lefties have it too?
I couldn't tell you.
Ed Heads, isn't?
Yep, Ed Heads.
Yeah, Ed Heads. So they all have them. I really want
to hear from you. I'd like to rename our listeners Mindless Free Talk Live Zombies. What do you think?
Free Talk Live automatons.
Call in if you're a mindless Free Talk Live zombie.
What does it mean to you to be left? What does it mean to you
progressive?
To be right? What does it mean to you to be conservative? What does it mean to you to be liberal? I think they're very vague concepts that pit people against one another. Many people who otherwise, in the absence of being able to plaster themselves with that label, might find out they've got an awful lot in common.
Free Talk Live, 7 nights a week from 7 to 10 Eastern, live on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens. It's sooner than you think. Stop arguing and build. freeprivatecities.com.
I've been told no in many different ways.
I give you an order and you're going to obey it.
George, you can go this way. You can't do that and you have to leave here.
You cannot bring Simon to the rally.
Walk with me. Well, I'm comfortable here, actually. Whoa, hey. Who do you think you are? Excuse me.
There is no video and audio allowed in this office.
No, I have work today.
You ain't going to make it.
Wait a minute. Whoa. Hey! Oh my God! Unbelievable! Why are you running from me? Because you're scared me. What am I being detained for?
You're being served.
What is this?
You're being served.
What is this? Bureaucrats have a funny way of telling people no.
That's the sound of the men working on the chain.
Derek J's Victimless Crime Spree. Watch it for free and order the Director's Cut DVD at victimlesscrimespree.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
We're still not sure why you'd want to watch, but our video feed is streaming nightly for free at cam.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back. Thank you for tuning in and listening. It's the Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. The telephone number in the studio is 603-283-6160 in the studio. It is myself, the Reverend Captain Kickass, joining me.
Peakless Mountaineer.
And Mark Edge.
Ian Freeman has the night off. Let's go back to your calls and thoughts. We were talking to Perry from Canada. Go ahead, Perry.
I'm from California. One more thing.
Oops.
I got about 2 or 3 little things I'll just mention real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
One of them is I was thinking about this debt that we're in. We're over $31 trillion in debt. One of the things the American people, we're going to be taxed for that.
The politicians have spent so exorbitantly that they claim that the American people are $31 trillion in debt. Yes.
Right. One of the things we can do, there's many things we can do, but one of the things we can do is all Americans, when you take your vacation, take it somewhere in this beautiful country. We have 50 beautiful states. We should be making us stronger right now at this point in time because of our situation.
How does taking a vacation within the United States help the national debt?
Well, because we're spending money at restaurants and hotels and who knows. The point is, we're putting people to work in America.
Well, I get the idea that you're talking about, but I don't think that affects the debt, really.
Well, it does because people can have more money to pay taxes. But anyway,
it's not about people not paying tax. That's not what the debt is. The debt is literally the politicians spending more money than they have. So if you give, the premise here is that the only thing that I can see would make it work is somehow voluntarily giving more, or at the very least voting to increase taxes. And if you did that, then they're just going to spend more than that too, because they've never been held accountable. they're never ever going to be held accountable. Now, I don't think it's a bad idea to plan trips in the United States and spend money in the U.S. In order to, if you're of the opinion that this is somehow going to, give Americans jobs and these sorts of things. By the way, Mexicans need jobs, and Europeans need jobs, and everybody needs jobs. But
right now, I'm saying for right now, until we get ourselves more straight.
You're never going to get us straight until somebody holds the people in Washington, D.C. accountable.
Which is
the reason that we have a recession right now is the policies of the politicians in Washington, D.C. Full on, there needs to be some accountability held. I'm still not against. I don't think it's a bad idea what you're suggesting.
Right.
It's just not going to do anything to hold them accountable. Accountability is accountability. Spending money within the country is spending money within the country, and they're not related.
Right. It's like hitting myself in the foot with a shovel for your mortgage. These two things aren't connected.
Well, one of the other things I think we should be doing is do it as clean as possible, but get more fossil fuels and propane and all the things that they're against right now. This climate change agenda is going to destroy America completely, but it's going to make us poverty.
That's what it's there for.
Put us in poverty and starvation. That's all it's going to do. It's going to lead us right to. Well, that's what their goal is, I suppose.
Well, I think that here's my biggest problem with the sort of agenda behind climate change is that many nations that are bigger polluters than the United States are, and I'm using pollutants such as CO2 and greenhouse gases, bigger polluters than the United States is, they aren't held accountable at all, and they're not going to be. And if you try to hold them accountable, they're going to lie about it.
Right.
That's true.
So, this is what they call a market failure. There's no good way to make it happen. And telling the average American not to, to buy a Prius or something, this is a laughable solution to, a problem that is much greater than that.
How is this a market failure?
We could be putting millions of people back to work and with good benefits, and that would also help our economy, and do it in a clean way. And get our prices of gas down to under $1.80 a gallon, and it would help lower our food prices. It would be a ripple effect.
Hey Perry, thank you for the call. We appreciate you. Yes, there are a number of things that folks in government, politicians, and other bureaucracies could be doing, but the fact of the matter is they don't care. They don't care about making America a more prosperous economy. They don't care about the average citizen and how well they're doing.
They care in the opposite direction.
What needs to happen with alternative energy sources is, first off, we need to make nuclear power viable again. It's the greenest of power sources, and somehow America's terrified of it.
Yeah,
you know how many people
fossil energy needs?
What's that?
That's the only solution to our energy needs. I mean, you can put a Band-Aid on it by opening up the pipelines that Biden closed, but to actually solve the problem, you're absolutely right. We need thorium reactors.
Well, thorium reactors would be really great, and they're an even better solution, but I don't think they're quite ready for prime time. That's not to say that they couldn't be, because solar panels aren't ready for prime time either.
Let's go to more of your calls and thoughts. We've got Alu Axelman calling from New Hampshire. Alu, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, guys. I agree with Perry that libertarians should vacation within the United States. I think libertarians should take a vacation to New Hampshire, see how beautiful and amazing and kick-ass it is, and then move here and stay here. That's what I did. But other than that, no, I do not agree with him on everything else he said as far as helping the debt. I see where he's going with it, but like Mark said so well, even if they made more money from more tax receipts, because they actually have more tax receipts than ever before, the federal government revenue from taxes, but they're just going to spend more and more. It's kind of laughable that he thought we could ever get out of debt. We just have to get more revenue or spend less. It's never going to happen.
It seemed like he was arguing for some things we can do while we're figuring out how to get out. Like, nobody's really trying to figure out how to get out of this mess. In fact, all they're doing is making the mess worse.
Yeah, real quick, Mark, you were talking about accountability. How is that possible? Like, you talk about holding our politicians accountable as if it was a thing that could happen.
I don't believe that it's a thing that one can do, but I think it's worth a shot for the muggles out there listening, so many of them, to give it a shot. Like, try a little bit of accountability on a politician, see how that goes, live in that space for a few years, and then you'll probably come to the conclusion that, like I have, that Washington, D.C., Beijing, Moscow, are so corrupt, so utterly unfixable, that at some point or another we just have to divorce ourselves from the emotional connection we have. Because
very well said by Mark.
Yeah.
I agree that secession is the only solution from the DC Empire.
Well, I don't know. Like, I think you can secede any day, right? Anytime you want, you just get in a plane and you go where you want and find the more freedom in your life and whatever works for you.
On an individual basis, but if you're talking about making a statement, particularly to the empire or empires that exist, I think a large group of people getting together and announcing their divorce is a swell idea.
Yeah, Perry talked about...
There's no place that has total freedom.
Yeah, Perry talked about how to solve the debt, and it's like, okay, I had no choice in it. I told you not to do it, and you didn't listen. How about instead of that, I start using good currency? I will just use good money instead of the one that you ruined.
Alu, I know you had more to say. Do you want to hang on?
Yes, sir.
All right, stand by. 603-283-6160. More with author Alu Axelman, who's based out of New Hampshire. And more calls. We've got somebody else on hold, and we've got some other topics that we want to bring up tonight. All for you coming up on Free Talk Live. It's the Saturday night edition. The telephone number, 603-283-6160.
On Free Talk Live, we're bringing people to the ideas of liberty every day. From wrestling superstars like Glenn Jacobs.
You guys really are having an impact, I believe. Like I said, a lot of where I am now is due to listening to Free Talk Live. You changed my mind on some very important issues years ago.
To random people tuning in on the radio.
I was kind of stuck in the left-right paradigm. I heard your show by chance on a Saturday night. From there, I went on, joined the Free State Project, and become an amplifier. So, I mean, that's really the reason why I amp is because I know that if it wasn't for you guys being on as many stations as you are, I never would have found the ideas of liberty.
You can help more people hear the message of liberty by joining Free Talk Live's AMPS program on Patreon for as little as $5 a month. And you'll get access to special perks. Visit amps.freetalklive.com, amps.freetalklive.com.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This was the week that US and Russia agreed to a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. The White House secured her release in exchange for Russian arms trafficker Viktor Bout, who was serving a 25-year sentence in a US prison. Griner flew back to her home state of Texas, and FSN's Tony Waterman was there for her arrival in San Antonio.
Brittany Griner touching down here in San Antonio in the early hours of Friday morning. She has since been transferred to the Brooke Army Medical Center here behind me, where she is undergoing a routine medical evaluation before being reunited with her family. Her wife Sherelle and her parents are expected to be here for that reunion, but today is really just day one in what is going to very likely be a long journey.
This week, Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested by police. Investigators said a far-right group was planning to storm the country's parliament and seize power. FSN's Trent Murray sent this report from Berlin.
25 suspects were arrested during the dawn raids, which occurred early Wednesday across 11 different states in Germany. The country's Prosecutor General said that the arrests were part of a large anti-terror operation which was investigating a suspected terror network from the Reichsbürger movement. They went on to say that there was suspicion that the group was planning an armed attack on, quote, constitutional or government buildings.
In the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff election in Georgia, a win that gave President Joe Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. It also provided more evidence of a changing political map in the US, as FSN's Kate Fisher reported from Washington.
For decades, the states of Florida and Ohio have carried the most sway when it comes to crowning American presidents. But Democrat Raphael Warnock's win in the previously safe Republican state of Georgia is another indicator that the road to the presidency will take a different route in 2024. Political strategists predict Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin will be crucial to deciding who goes to the White House.
This week saw the first episodes of a documentary series about Prince Harry and his wife Meghan released on Netflix. FSN's Julia Chapman sent this report from London.
In the first 3 episodes of the series, Harry and Meghan describe their love story. The Duke of Sussex says he was looking for someone who could take on the baggage of being a royal, with all the scrutiny that entails. He describes how life was turned upside down for Meghan when they went public with their relationship. Harry describes his wife as being similar to his mother, Princess Diana, saying both are full of compassion.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
You can help spread the ideas of liberty with our Patreon for just $5 per month at amps.freetalklive.com.
Have you used duct tape on an actual duct?
As long as you're not using duct tape on an actual duck.
It is Free Talk Live, in case you're wondering what kind of silliness you might be listening to. It is a live call-in radio talk program where you can take control of the airwaves, talk about whatever's on your mind. In the studio, it's myself, the captain.
Beakless Mountaineer.
And Mark Edge. Hey, did you know that there's a brand of duct tape called Duck Tape?
Yes, it's got a picture of a duck on it, and it's actually one of the more reputable brands as well.
Yes, it's one of the name brands, yeah. And it moved up rather quickly from obscurity to recognizability.
I think they took advantage of the sort of mispronunciation of duct tape.
Oh,
right?
sure.
Most people are like duct tape, right? We're going to get it. And so, like...
Well, I think a lot of people don't know that that it's duct tape,
right,
but in fact, duck tape.
And so they were like, ooh, like, I mean, this is marketing 101. Take a word that's already on everybody's tip of their tongue. It's already in their mouths. A duck is a very common word. Like, get my ducks in a row, duck, duck, goose, right? You can, I'm going out for duck tonight, right? Duck is a very common word used by, get out of the way, like like duck, right? Oh, I'm throwing a thing at you, better duck, right? This is a very common word. So they took advantage of it. Having a household word already, something that was already misattributed to duct tape, and then just made a brand out of it, I think was a very smart business decision on their part.
Well, kind of reminds me of Fish Sticks.
Yes.
Which sounds like a name brand that you might be able to market to the LGBT community.
You might. Let's go back to Alu Axelman, who's calling from New Hampshire. What were we talking about, Alu?
Something about taxes, and I was going to mention during the last segment that I just wrote a book a few weeks ago. I published it called Taxation is Theft, and it's got everything, the who, what, when, why, where, and the history of taxation.
My favorite acronym, too.
Explains, explains how to eventually abolish taxation in a pretty realistic way. And obviously, secession is very much involved in the book because most of the taxes we pay are federal, and we don't get that much money back from them.
For those of our listeners who don't know, I know that you're a rather prolific author. You've written a bunch of stuff, articles and books. Where can folks find your stuff?
Amazon's the easiest way to find them. Look for my name, Alu Axelman, A-L-U, Axelman, on my website, libertyblock.com and aluaxelman.com. But also find me, if you're in New Hampshire, if you're not here yet, get here. But if you're in New Hampshire, I always have copies on me in my car and stuff. So just find me. You'll get a better price and a personalized signed copy.
All right. What else was on your mind tonight?
Well, I wanted to talk to my friend Sarah about bipolar. So bipolar is literally the old term for what was now called by medicine manic depressive.
Mm-hmm.
It literally means that people have cycles, usually a few days at a time or weeks, of manic, which is mania, which is super hyper happy, and then depression. So manic depressive is bipolar. And many people, unless they have super ultra severe manic depressive, these people can hold jobs. And if they are very severe, they can have medications. I've known many people who have had jobs very easily, even though they have manic depressive disorder.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing I wanted to say to Sarah. But I also wanted to touch on mental illness in general. I and my family, and my dad's a therapist for most of his career, earlier on in his career, and a lot of others have some experience with mental health. What's interesting is that mental illness is a very broad term, and it describes both severe and mild mental illness. By mild mental illness, I mean anxiety, depression, OCD, ADHD, PTSD, things that in general people can live rather normally with or without medication or therapy. But as far as the government's concerned, especially with gun control or red flags or other things, they'll say, oh, people with mental illness shouldn't have guns, which sounds like it makes sense until you think about it for a second and you realize that according to the CDC themselves and Lord Fauci and the government, they say around 50% of adults, over 50% of adults in the United States have some form of mental illness.
Right. And by over 50, they mean 99.
Right. Well, but yeah, and at 50%, as soon as you say, well, mentally ill people shouldn't have guns, which I understand the statement. Yeah. When you say that, then suddenly the authority that decides whether or not one is mentally ill will decide that everybody who isn't a cop, soldier, security guard, or whatever,
or the ones telling them what to do,
can't own a gun.
You have an even better point than you think you have. Like I mentioned in my previous book, Presumed Guilty, that Bonnie's currently doing the narration for. It's not only that, it's that, and they can easily say, the government can easily say, people who don't believe in global warming and corona fascism are anti-science and therefore mentally ill. Right. Those who voted for Trump are mentally ill. So they can very easily do this. They already started to do this.
Well, and
but another interesting thing, if you guys read the Second Amendment, I don't know if you guys are constitutional experts. I'm a self-proclaimed constitutional expert. The Second Amendment does not have a carve-out as such to not be infringed. It does not say except for mentally ill or felons or minors.
Right.
So
well, the other thing, they figured. I imagine they figured that problem would solve itself. If you're mentally ill wandering around with a gun, you won't be mentally ill and wandering around with a gun for too long in a world where everybody can carry a gun.
I would like to just simply point out that from a clinical perspective, the belief in authority, that is the hallucination that some people have the right to subjugate you and rob you for their reasons and whatever they classify it as the greater good or whatever, does classify, like statism is a mental illness in and of itself, clinically speaking.
Well, and that's it's an interesting sort of joke or juxtapose of, they in fact will say, if you just don't like authority sufficiently, that you've got anti-defiance,
oppositional defiant disorder.
Right. They've got all kinds of names for it, anti-disestablishmentarian. They've got all kinds of terminology.
They're trying to change the word eleutheromania into a medical term that describes a mental illness, which it is not.
And they'll basically say, "Whoa, you don't want to listen to what you don't like any authority. I know I've got a stupid, crazy rule like wearing a mask that I haven't managed to prove, or I'm going to force you to take a vaccine that is untested or whatever it is, but you've got a mental illness."
Right. So 2 quick things. One, this is exactly like having a priesthood that tells you whether or not you are possessed by a demon. You have all of these experts, and they will tell you whether you have this invisible ailment of a mental disorder.
Right.
And 2, people tend to look at mental illness in a fundamentally different way from physical illness. Like, we expect people to recover from physical illnesses, and sometimes that can take years, but it's accepted that you can heal from that, and mental illnesses are actually that way.
Well, and if we want to take it to the clinical definitions, religions, all of them, from a non-religious perspective, would be considered mental illnesses, right? You're hearing voices, things are talking to you, telling things, you believe in beings that you can't prove exist, etc., and so on.
Irreligion, from a religious perspective, is also mentally ill.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. So, it depends on the perspective. So, back to Mark's point, whoever makes the decision of what mental illness is the one who gets to force their way upon you. Ellie?
Yeah, I'm just stuck on the felons and minors can't have guns. I'm looking in the Second Amendment between the lines, and even reading between the lines, I cannot find.
It's relatively recently.
Felons and minors.
It was in the early 1900s that they made it so that felons couldn't carry guns. I mean, frankly, people would get out of jail or get out of prison, and they would have their guns returned to them, and they would leave armed. If you're able to leave prison, the presumption should be that if you're safe enough to return to society, you should be safe enough to be armed.
Right.
Now, I can understand in modern society why they don't want somebody handed an AK-47 as they walk out of the prison. I got you. But there should be, it seems to me, a path that is, set in place for felons to get their guns back. Yeah. Because if you want a felon to return to society, you want him to find a wife, presumably. You want him to raise a family, presumably. You want him to get a job. You want him to do things. That means he needs to be able to protect that household.
Right.
Like any other American can.
Yeah, I'm not, a voting guy when it comes to presidential elections and that kind of a thing. But when, somebody gets released from prison, a felon, that type of thing, I think they've paid their debt, right? They're getting released. All of their rights should be made whole again. You should be able to carry a firearm. You should be able to do all of the things that a normal, everyday person is able to do. There shouldn't be any restrictions.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying that a 5-year time frame where, a felon isn't arrested within 5 years, then his right to keep and bear arms is returned. I'm only talking about a practical solution, not a philosophical one.
603-283-6160 is the number here if you'd like to join in on this conversation or bring up whatever's on your mind here on Free Talk Live. More coming up.
The Free State Project has reached its goal of 20,000 liberty lovers who've pledged to move to New Hampshire and get active to achieve liberty in our lifetime. Perhaps you're trying to figure out what part of New Hampshire should be your destination. If so, consider Keene. You'll find more than 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com. Keene is famous for its historic, publicity-generating activism, as well as being the liberty media capital of the world. It's home to freekeene.com, New Hampshire's destination for liberty activism, news, and opinion. For years, we've been compiling over 150 reasons to move to Keene at move.freekeene.com, where you'll learn about some of what's happening here and what makes Keene a great place to live. If you love liberty, you'll probably enjoy anywhere you end up in the Shire. But do your due diligence first. Please visit move.freekeene.com for the full list of over 150 reasons to move to Keene. That's move.freekeene.com.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Gasoline prices are one thing, but are you paying too much for oil? I'm Holland Cook with Inflation Hacks. AARP tells members most oil change shops slap a sticker on your windshield summoning you back in 3,000 miles. Check your owner's manual. Many newer cars use a synthetic oil that needs changing far less frequently. And keep tires properly inflated. Otherwise, you lose miles per gallon, as you will if you got a lot of junk in the trunk. Why haul around unnecessary pounds? You yourself might lose a few pounds if you simply grab the first parking space you see and walk a little more. It's estimated Americans spend some 17 hours and waste hundreds of dollars each year looking for a parking space. Get some steps in. You'll spend less on health care. How are you coping? Post your inflation hacks at andyoucanquoteme.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. So you've signed the Shire Society Declaration and are planning your move to New Hampshire to be around more liberty-oriented people. Next, sign up for the Shire Society Forum at forum.shiresociety.com. There are a bunch of people there who are already in the Shire, and they want to meet you. If you're already in the Shire physically, you should also come by the forums. Remember, not everyone uses Facebook. New people are signing up for the Shire Society Forum every month, so drop in and say hello at forum.shiresociety.com.
Yep, we still do email. Drop your email address in the entry box at freetalklive.com, and you'll be kept in the loop with Free Talk Live.
Free Talk Live. I want to take a minute and just say that this hour of Free Talk Live has been brought to you by Bullion Max. Inflation is a real problem. The Federal Reserve's endless printing is eating away at your savings. Savvy investors are diversifying into the most stable assets in recorded history, gold and silver. Get yours from bullionmax.com/FTL without dealing with a salesperson. Your precious metals ship fully insured directly to your home. It's fast and it's easy. Free Talk Live listeners can get a special deal, employee pricing, on Bullion Max's Silver Starter Kit. Just go to bullionmax.com/FTL. The kit includes 5 ounces of silver from the world's most popular mints. Plus, you'll get a free gold back. And, I love the gold backs. I don't know about y'all. Just go to bullionmax.com/FTL. It's the perfect time to invest in precious metals, so do not miss this limited time special. Start your new investment with bullionmax.com/FTL today. All right. We've got more of your calls and thoughts in the studio. It's the Captain,
Pickless Mountaineer,
and Mark.
We're going to let's go to Joy calling from Spokane, Washington. Joy, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi. My comment is,
it's okay. Take a breath.
It's about the guns. No, it's about the guns. And I don't see the rights argument that everyone should be armed. It sounds like that is for them. That's an Amendment 2 or whatever policy. It sounds like that's for you too. And it's all under freedom. Well, here in Spokane, there was a hoax called into the high school. So what about those kids? Shouldn't they have the freedom to go to school and not be frightened out of their heads because someone has called in and said that there's a gun, there's an active shooter in their high school? And it wasn't true. So, but how about the freedom of the kids who go to school, go to a theater, watch a parade, that they're shot down with someone with a gun?
Well, my argument for rights, Joy, would be that rights don't exist, like that no right exists that requires something from someone else. So, for instance, my right to freedom of speech, you agree I have that one, probably religion, these sorts of things. These things come internally. No one claims that they have very few people would claim that they have the right to a gun that you purchased for them, right? They were going to purchase their own. So they're not requiring anything from anyone else. Whereas safety, which can never be provided as long as you live outside of, the government hasn't made their prisons safe.
I am 66 years old.
Yes, ma'am.
I've lived by myself for years.
Uh-huh.
And I've never felt I needed a gun to keep me safe.
Okay.
So they have these ads. It's like, have the women. They need their guns. We have this gun culture that just does not make any sense. And I have great nephews. I have brother-in-laws who hunt, and that's fine. But I just do not see when they can show some data that, most of the mass killers are like they're young men. Well, let's use the data. Let's use our abilities to think smart like Americans can. Let's use this information and let's put some safeguards where the risk is the greatest. You do it when you buy a convertible and you're 16 and you have to pay insurance.
Those things already exist, though.
So insurance.
Right. So let's do it towards something that is killing people. We had in Spokane a beloved healthcare worker who worked for our major hospital here. He went in, was interviewing this couple for an hour. They happened to have a paranoid grandson who was listening to the conversation. All of a sudden, the caregiver said, "I've been shot." The grandson comes out, sees him laying on the ground, and shoots and kills him.
Joy?
Why in any world should this grandson have access to a gun?
Are you aware of the proportion of mass shootings that occur in gun-free zones?
But I'm just saying that they are getting into the hands of people who shouldn't have
How do you
them.
propose to
And-
get them out of the hands of people that shouldn't have them, Joy?
Because this man, the grandson had beaten up a veterinarian that his grandparents used. He was paranoid, and I'm not saying anyone
And
has.
so the legal system, which has failed, to incarcerate him up to that point, was somehow going to prevent him from having a gun?
Well, I think we need much more mental health.
Agreed. Fine.
Facilities out there. But in
Well, the first thing we need is to stop incentivizing madness.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our current system incentivizes madness. I mean, you talk about going to public schools.
Hang on, Joy.
I mean, you talk about going to public schools, and look, I think there absolutely should be schools out there that say, hey, it is our policy. We do not allow guns on our campus. And if you want your children to go there because you feel safer having your children there, great. There should also be schools where they say, hey, we teach children about guns. And one of the big things is if you teach children about guns, they aren't terrifying.
But when someone walks in with a gun, what would you like your teacher to do?
Well,
leave the classroom to chase down the killer or take care of your kids?
Joy, it sounds like you live in a fantasy world, and that fantasy world is. Listen to me, Joy. 3 guns for every American. Some people have estimated as high. There's at least 2 guns for every American. That's 900 million, almost 1 billion guns in the United States.
Yep.
How do you make them disappear?
But if we don't do anything,
No answer.
then you just stop.
Well, all I'm telling you,
we've got to do something, even if that makes the problem worse.
the old saying, if you outlaw. The old saying is if you outlaw guns, only outlaws have guns.
Well, only governments have guns.
If you say it's illegal to own a gun, then only people that give a damn what is illegal are going to give up their guns.
I'm not saying it's illegal. I'm just saying I think we can put more standards around it, like
places like New York State, places like Illinois, places like Chicago. I mean, the list is long. Have all kinds of standards for gun ownership, and they're the most violent places in America, Joy.
Maybe it's that we enforce them better. I just hate the answer
How
to
are you going to make the government efficient? People have been trying this for this government 250 years, and for governments before that for millennia.
So my whole thing is just this is property rights. If I can own anything, I can own anything. Like, just because this piece of metal is sharper doesn't mean that I can't own this piece of metal. If I have this piece of metal that is designed to have a small explosion directed toward the end of it, it's another piece of property. And if you have a right to your kidneys, you have a right to a gun.
Well, so then I'm assuming you haven't been one of the people who's had their child shot down in a classroom.
Clearly, I have not had my child shot down in a classroom. I don't send him to government school, and the shootings in private schools are significantly lower.
Yeah, when and if I make a decision about how to educate my child, I assure you guns will be a big part of their world. They will be protected by people who know how to use them properly.
Well, see, I mean, I just, I come from a family that is not, as I said, there's hunting guns in my sister's house, in my nephew's house. His 12-year-old son just got his first elk. I'm not saying.
Have you shot, Joy? Do you shoot guns? Have you hunted?
No, and I don't have any interest in doing it.
Okay.
I have to get up awfully early for that.
Well, and my dad was in the military for 30 years. He's a B-52 pilot in World War II. We never had a gun around our house.
My dad was a mold maker, and we did have guns. We had a gun in my house, and he told me not to touch it unless he was around, and then we'd go out and shoot, and I never violated those rules.
You also look at the increased suicides by vets, by young people, and
people that the government give guns to and tell them to go kill other people with. Of course, they're going to have an increase in suicide. Joy, thank you for the call. We appreciate you. Feel free to call again on another night too. We're here 7 nights a week.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about it because I'm for the solution that works best. I just don't think for America that getting rid of guns is going to work.
Look, she has every right to not own a gun. She doesn't like guns. Great. Don't own one. You think they're scary or they're too intimidating for you? Far out, solid, and right on. Don't own one. Don't shoot one. Don't learn anything about them. But you do not have the right to infringe on my ability to own one.
Yeah, also, I'm just as offended at you not having ever learned gun safety and shot one so that it's not the same boogeyman as it is right now. But hey, different strokes for different folks.
And don't forget, there's all kinds of gun-free zones in America you can go to be safe.
More Free Talk Live is coming up.
The new 4th edition of Healing Our World, The Compassion of Libertarianism, will take your understanding of liberty to a deeper level and has over 1,300 updated references, new cartoons, and a foreword by Dr. Ron Paul. With discounts for multiple book purchases, the 4th edition of Healing Our World is a great gift for the liberals, pragmatists, environmentalists, and Christians in your life who think libertarianism is cold-hearted. Get yours today at healing.freetalklive.com and use promo code FTL for a $5 discount. Gold and silver. You can own the most stable assets in recorded history with BullionMax.com. Buy direct from BullionMax.com without talking to a salesperson, and your precious metals shipped fully insured directly to your home. Free Talk Live can get you their silver starter kit at employee pricing. Just go to BullionMax.com/FTL. It includes 5 ounces of the most desirable silver products plus a free gold bag. This offer is limited to 1 per household, so get yours now. Go to BullionMax.com/FTL.
My name is Jacob Hornberger. I'm president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, which Congressman Ron Paul awarded for having an outstanding freedom website. Write us at fff@fff.org, and we'll send you a free 3-month subscription to our monthly journal of libertarian essays and our booklet, Economic Liberty in the Constitution, which George Mason University economics professor Walter Williams praised in a recent column. That's fff@fff.org.
If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
You're listening to the live edition of Free Talk Live. Hour number 3 is next after the news here on the Liberty Radio Network at LRN.FM.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This was the week that US and Russia agreed to a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. The White House secured her release in exchange for Russian arms trafficker Viktor Bout, who was serving a 25-year sentence in a US prison. Griner flew back to her home state of Texas, and FSN's Tony Waterman was there for her arrival in San Antonio.
Brittany Griner touching down here in San Antonio in the early hours of Friday morning. She has since been transferred to the Brooke Army Medical Center here behind me, where she is undergoing a routine medical evaluation before being reunited with her family. Her wife Sherelle and her parents are expected to be here for that reunion, but today is really just day one in what is going to very likely be a long journey.
This week, Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested by police. Investigators said a far-right group was planning to storm the country's parliament and seize power. FSN's Trent Murray sent this report from Berlin.
25 suspects were arrested during the dawn raids, which occurred early Wednesday across 11 different states in Germany. The country's prosecutor general said that the arrests were part of a large anti-terror operation which was investigating a suspected terror network from the Reichsbürger movement. They went on to say that there was suspicion that the group was planning an armed attack on, quote, constitutional or government buildings.
In the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff election in Georgia, a win that gave President Joe Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. It also provided more evidence of a changing political map in the US, as FSN's Kate Fisher reported from Washington.
For decades, the states of Florida and Ohio have carried the most sway when it comes to crowning American presidents. But Democrat Raphael Warnock's win in the previously safe Republican state of Georgia is another indicator that the road to the presidency will take a different route in 2024. Political strategists predict Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin will be crucial to deciding who goes to the White House.
This week saw the first episodes of a documentary series about Prince Harry and his wife Meghan released on Netflix. FSN's Julia Chapman sent this report from London.
In the first 3 episodes of the series, Harry and Meghan describe their love story. The Duke of Sussex says he was looking for someone who could take on the baggage of being a royal, with all the scrutiny that entails. He describes how life was turned upside down for Meghan when they went public with their relationship. Harry describes his wife as being similar to his mother, Princess Diana, saying both are full of compassion.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks, looking again today at the debate over the future of the Elgin marbles, those stunning panels from the Parthenon removed from Greece in the early 1800s by British soldier and diplomat Thomas Bruce, the 7th Earl of Elgin. Earlier this week, it was reported that the British Museum has made progress in discussions with the Greeks over the marbles' return to a new museum being constructed in Athens. But on Tuesday, Britain's Culture Secretary said any return of the panels would represent a slippery cultural slope. Professor Christy Konstantakopoulou of Birkbeck University is a member of Greece's National Hellenic Research Foundation.
The Ottomans did indeed give the permission to Lord Elgin to remove the marbles, but the question is, whose ownership are the marbles now? And I find it very perplexing and indeed insulting, the argument that the marbles are not safe in Athens. This stands on a basis of basically cultural supremacy over thefts of antiquities and ideologies and the very culture and tradition of peoples that they were considered inferior.
Last month, another museum in London agreed to return ancient bronzes looted in 1897 from the city of Benin, now part of Nigeria, and the Nigerian authorities want American museums to follow suit. With FSN Spotlight, I'm Simon Marks.
And the main news again of the week. The US and Russia agreed a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested. And in the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff race in Georgia, giving President Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. That's Feature Story News. Nick Harper reporting.
After this morning's police raid on Cosmopolitan magazine's male pleasure laboratory revealed that test subjects were forced to endure horrific abuses and inhumane living conditions, Onion reporters spoke to 23-year-old Daniel Chertok, one of the numerous men exploited for the monthly magazine's studies on erotic stimulation.
It was awful. They drove us wild for days on end. Once they made me lather myself with gallons of sexy bath oils, and then read thousands of racy text messages until my eyesight began to blur. Then for the next 12 hours, they blasted sultry songs into my ears and made me simulate 50 crazy hot sex moves. They said I couldn't rest until they found the bliss button on my randy regions.
According to Chertok, test subjects were often subjected to hours of grueling experimentation at the hands of female scientists. Chertok added that many of his fellow subjects were not lucky enough to survive the excruciating treatment.
This is the Onion News Network.
Free Talk Live.
Welcome back. Thank you for listening and tuning in to this Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. In the studio, it's myself, the captain,
Peakless Mountaineer,
and Mark Edge.
Ian Freeman has the night off. The telephone number is 603-283-6160, but if you're trying to call, you're probably getting a busy signal because right now the phones are packed. So if you're on hold listening right now, please just stay on hold. We'll try and get to everybody. If you are trying to call and get on and you're getting the busy signal, please just continue to try. Eventually, we hope you will get through and we'll get to your calls as well. Before we go on, I need to just mention that apparently Free Talk Live has a TikTok. I don't know for how long it'll stay there. Generally, when Free Talk Live starts, generating content on a new platform, why we tend to get flagged and, taken offline. And
generate a little bit of controversy.
Well, from what I've heard, TikTok is not as stringent in its censorship.
So
that's because the Chinese are doing experiments on us to see how other things go.
If you're into the TikTok, I don't even know how to find TikTok, much less our Free Talk Live channel. But if you're into that, feel free to go and search.
I'm pretty
that
sure
out.
you go to the App Store or the Play Store.
I'm pretty sure you download the TikTok app and then search Free Talk Live, and it'll get you there.
That sounds right. Yeah.
But I do not generate TikTok content myself personally.
Yeah, I'm betting that they downgrade us because we actually educate people, but only for Americans. There's 2 different TikToks.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah. So if you sign in from beyond the Great Firewall of China, they will suggest things that are educational and edifying and helpful. And if you don't, then they will suggest dancing.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts since the phones are packed. Let's start with, we've got Sean calling from North Carolina. Sean, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hi, how are you guys tonight?
We're good. What's on your mind?
I was talking about Joy. She kind of missed the nail when she was trying to hit it, when she said that most mass shooters are young men. That is correct. But she missed the other 2 key indicators that are really big and seldom reported.
What are they?
One is that they're on medication, and 2, they are previously known to law enforcement in some sort of manner.
And it's a specific kind of medication too, right? It's mental health medications.
Psychiatric medication, correct. Right. And those 2 big things are seldom reported. It's a young, usually white male that does these things, and usually lately they've been getting their guns legally because the police and the courts are dropping the ball. And not that I'm saying that felons shouldn't carry guns, but they should have a felony record, and they don't because they're dropping the charges.
The other thing that I think is very overlooked here is oftentimes people will bring up, well, where do these kids learn this from? Well, let's see. The government of the United States of America, how do they get their way when they want their way somewhere around the world? They bomb people. They drop bombs and start murdering people. So I wonder where these children are learning this behavior from.
Yep, and Joy said she mentioned she was 66 years old. I'm a little bit younger, not by much. But when I grew up in the 60s and 70s and the early 80s, there were kids in high school that would go hunting and show up at school with their kills in their pickup truck and their guns in their pickup truck.
Yeah.
And there were no mass shootings.
Yeah, weird, huh?
It's not the tool.
Some schools had shooting ranges.
Yes.
They had shooting clubs.
Absolutely.
People would bring their rifles to school.
I have a yearbook from my college from a year of birth back in 1963. They had a shooting club, a skeet club, right there.
Sean,
in the high schools.
Excellent points. Great call. Thank you so much. Moving right along, we've got Jason Henza calling from Mexico. Jason, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, guys. Yeah, I was just calling to comment on what Joyce was talking about. It definitely should be every peaceful society goal to disarm themselves voluntarily. Now, when you use coercion with a corrupt government, now you've got a whole other ballgame where you're creating this really toxic situation where nobody trusts each other, a lot of violence breaks out, and all that kind of stuff. And I live in a country where there's a lot of corruption, really strict gun laws, and I was shot here 3 times.
Right.
And there was no way of defending the property that we were on against what we were up against. We just didn't have the arms to do it. So these young men just felt the need, like it was totally fine just to come up and shoot us when, the opportunity presented itself. And then you got the occasional gangs running around the neighborhoods, extorting businesses and stuff like that, because a lot of these people, they either can't afford guns or they can't legally own them. So it creates kind of a problem where you have gangs running wild and the government isn't even strong enough to protect its citizens from these gangs.
Yeah, I think that it's true in the United States, too, is where they have the most strict gun laws. They have a great deal of crime. Now, I don't know that there's necessarily
gun crime specifically.
Yeah, gun crime. I mean, it's like the gun laws aren't working.
Not only are they not working, but they seem to exacerbate the situation.
And I don't know, I don't have a solution for how to make the government more efficient. I know that if you want more efficiency in government, you need to have competition, because that's how that works in everything else. If you want better cell phones, you need more cell phone manufacturers. You want better cars, you need more car manufacturers. You want better service from your pest control company, you need more pest control companies. So if you want better service from your government, you need to be able to unsubscribe from one government and then subscribe to another one. Yeah, that would be the best way.
Yeah, you said it's a different matter when you have corruption from your coercive government. It's like, okay, compared to what? As far as I know, there has never been an uncorrupt government for the exact reason that you don't have competition, and they are by definition coercive.
Jason?
Very true. They are an extremely coercive government. I just, I don't want to live under that kind of jurisdiction personally, but that's the way it is. Going on to what the previous caller just called about was the young men, typically white young men, who go on these mass shootings.
Yeah.
If we notice, we don't gather together as men anymore. Like, these men don't see how we age and how to identify with each other. They just feel like lost. They're like a lost generation once they hit about 17 to 25 years old, where they're just going nuts. The whole society's pulling apart and telling them that they're evil. And how the heck are they supposed to, look at themselves in the mirror without going crazy?
Well, I think that if you look at mass shootings and you're scared of mass shootings, you don't understand gun crime and you don't understand demographics, right? Like, young white men do most mass shootings. Now, I don't know if that's true. I have not checked this, and I don't like the idea that it's coming out of my mouth because I haven't checked it. But nonetheless, were that the case, and it may very well be, so what? The amount of people that die in the United States by mass shootings pales in comparison to the amount of people who die for a whole variety of other reasons, or from violent crime, or from, hammers kill more people in the United States than AR-15s do.
Yep.
So if you outlaw AR-15s, what are you going to do about the hammer deaths?
Yeah,
we got to outlaw the hammers.
Yeah, as Captain has frequently pointed out, the decision to do harm comes long before the decision of which tool to do harm.
Yeah, weapon selection is always secondary to the choice to kill. So no matter what you outlaw tanks, all right, somebody's going to find, some other way, right? Oh, guns, okay, those are rid of. Oh, outlaw gun, okay, well, let's go with knives. Oh, nope, knives are outlawed. Okay, let's go hammers.
They tried with knives in England.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now the chef knives don't have the pointy tip.
Yeah. Now they have mass stabbings.
Yeah, you know what it makes me think of, like, okay, let's say that we as a society wanted to stop people from going to Las Vegas, and we found out, most of the people going to Las Vegas drive a red Corvette to get there. Okay, so we'll make red Corvettes illegal. Okay, well, now it's black Corvettes. Oh, we better make black Corvettes illegal, and so on and so forth until people are that's not going to work.
Right. And it doesn't. And we've seen it. It's been proven here in the United States just by the cities that we've mentioned, New York, Chicago, for example.
And I think and Joy mentioned rights, and I think it's worth bringing up rights for a second here. Until we get rid of the Second Amendment legally through the system that governs, then to advocate for the government getting rid of weapons makes no sense to me. The highest law in the land says the right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Jason, thank you for the call. I appreciate it.
We just need to take it away from young men. They're the ones that should own property.
Shall not be infringed. Mentally ill shall not be infringed.
If the government wants guns to go away, they should set the example and start by governing without them themselves. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is coming up.
Join liberty-minded voluntarists, anarchists, and libertarians from June 15th through the 18th for the 7th annual Fork Fest at Rogers Campground in the beautiful White Mountains of New Hampshire. Fork Fest is a fork of the Porcupine Freedom Festival, which sold out in 2022. For 2023, we're going back to where it all started, the weekend before PorcFest. ForkFest is decentralized, which means that there's no ticket cost and no one is in charge. All you have to do to join the fun is reserve your camping site, RV site, or motel room with Rogers Campground for June 15th through the 18th. You can find out more at the unofficial website forkfest.party. You can also connect with other attendees on the ForkFest Telegram and Matrix chat rooms, as well as the ForkFest forum. You can find links to those at forkfest.party. We hope to see you there June 15th through the 18th. forkfest.party.
I'm crazy about My Magic Mud. This is the most important oral care product created this millennium, and I'm not kidding. We all have different opinions on politics and issues, but we all have mouths. And I want yours to be as clean as possible, with teeth as bright as they were meant to be. I will never be without My Magic Mud. It's a little surprising, but man, does it work. If you only listen to one thing I say ever, go to mymagicmud.com and get 20% off with code FTL. mymagicmud.com, code FTL.
Are you tired of governments murdering people around the world? Stop using their money. There is an alternative. Bitcoin is a stateless, free market, non-political currency. Bitcoin cannot be inflated or controlled by any government. By using their money, you are helping the state. Stop doing it. You have an incredible alternative available now. Learn it, use it, spread it. Get started with Bitcoin at bitcoin.com. That's bitcoin.com.
Do you prefer to listen to Free Talk Live on your schedule on demand? You can find the link to our podcast at feeds.freetalklive.com, which features the daily digest of our radio show 7 days a week. Just drop our RSS feed into your favorite podcast client or subscribe to us on the large platforms if you prefer, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartMedia, Spotify, and Stitcher. All the links are at feeds.freetalklive.com. If the daily digests aren't enough for you and you really don't want to miss a moment of Free Talk Live, you can always sign up for our AMPS Patreon at amps.freetalklive.com for just $5 a month, and you'll get the full radio show without recorded commercials. Plus, you'll help us advertise, market, promote, and support Free Talk Live. That's amps.freetalklive.com to join AMPS, or feeds.freetalklive.com to get our main podcast, or find us on the major podcast platforms. What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
There are basically two types of advertising: direct response and branding. Radio's great for direct response with its low cost to listener ratio, but audio can't be beat for branding, which is a longer-term endeavor. You want to be the first thing that someone thinks of when they think about your product or service. If you have a local business that you want kept top of mind in your community, call the station. If you need national reach, Free Talk Live's got around 200 radio stations, millions of monthly listening sessions, can suit all budgets, and if we don't think we're right for you, we'll tell you. Email me, mark@freetalklive.com.
Got Telegram? You can follow our channel there and discuss show prep with other listeners at telegram.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back. Thank you for listening to Free Talk Live. If you aren't familiar with us, find out all about us over at freetalklive.com. Whole bunch of stuff there, whole bunch of features, whole bunch of downloads, etc., and so on going on for you, the listener. All free. We don't, you can join our AMPS program if you like. That's advertise, market, promote, and support over at amps.freetalklive.com. If you want to contribute and help get this show onto more radio stations, we're on something like 200 radio stations now. We could be on more. We could be on 300, 400. It's all up to you. And in fact, we should say thank you to Justin O'Donnell, who is tonight's amplifier. He is a silver level amplifier, which means he gives $5 a month. That's all we ask for. You can give more. There's different levels. Again, visit amps.freetalklive.com. Thank you again, Justin O'Donnell. I want to say we have gotten to zero of the show prep tonight that we all brought in. We all have multiple things, and we're probably not going to get to much of it, if any. However, that is one of the reasons that Peakless Mountaineer and I and nobody, or co-host named Nobody, have created this thing called Beard Talk Live on Saturday nights. We're going to be doing episode number 17 tonight. And it's specifically because we were always over-prepped, and we found that we weren't getting to the material, and so we thought we needed more time, and so we created, we'll call it the after show on Saturday nights of Free Talk Live. It's an extension. You can still call in to 603-283-6160. It is internet only, though. So you're not going to hear it on your radio stations. You have to go to watch.freetalklive.com to catch it live. It's the only place we're broadcasting it. But it's called Beard Talk Live because, well, Peakless has a beard. I have a beard.
But it is available in the podcast feed.
It is available in the podcast feed.
And it's wildly popular on the podcast feed.
Shockingly so. I'm pleasantly surprised at the number of listeners, downloads, etc. That have gone on. So we'll be doing that again tonight, about a half hour after the show is done. So the show ends at 10 p.m. Eastern. We'll start Beard Talk Live at about 10:30 over at watch.freetalklive.com. It is uncensored, too, so here on the radio, we can't say certain words or use certain descriptions, that type of thing. The late show, if you will, the Beard Talk Live, is completely uncensored. It's internet only, so we can say whatever the heck we want.
And we do.
So
I'll be on tonight.
And Mark will be joining us as well. So
I didn't shave today just for this purpose.
Well, we've got a guest beard type thing that will staple to your chin or something.
Don't tell him we're planning on stapling. He'll see it coming.
Let's go to your calls and thoughts. Let's first go to Ellen, who's calling from Australia. Ellen, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, g'day. I can't believe I actually got through. First time caller. I've been listening for ages. I just wanted to bring up the lovely lady who rang up before with her points about firearms and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Being from a sort of semi-communist country that is Australia right now, our firearm ownership is a privilege. It's not a right. However, if you get done and get charged and get put away, we don't actually call it felonies in Australia. You have the chance to actually put in for a firearms license after you get out, and it's determined if from that if you're allowed to get it. It's not a blanket ban.
Oh, interesting.
So if you don't got done for a white collar crime, you would have all sorts of chance after 5 years of getting a license back.
And this license would be for hunting or perhaps target shooting or something like that.
Yes,
you can't own a gun to protect yourself.
No, we do not have the castle law in Australia. However, we have to have a reasonable reason for us to have firearms ownership.
Okay.
And do you know a lot of people who have firearms, or is it common or uncommon?
It is fairly common. I am a firearms owner. I am also in the Australian Defence Force, so don't hold that against me. But it is common, but we don't advertise it. We can't carry around what we have. We have to have them locked up in our safes. We can't, and when we have them in the car, we can't have them out. We have to have the bolt out, for example, locked up. We have to have a trigger lock and all that sort of stuff.
Are they ever used to prevent crime? Because that happens all the time here in the United States, and it's so often that it doesn't even make the news. No?
No.
Okay.
No.
Are they used to commit crimes?
And yes, illegal ones are.
Yeah. That's the problem with making firearms illegal is that then the criminals who don't care about the consequences of breaking the law are willing to use them, whereas law-abiders who do care about the consequences aren't prepared.
Yeah, and the statistics reliably show that significantly more crimes are prevented with guns in America than are caused with guns in America.
That's true.
Yeah. So another thing too, I just put my 2 cents worth in here. If someone has the what's the word I'm after? Someone has the intent, they will always find the means to do it. And so banning a piece of metal that happens to have a projectile in it will not stop these things from happening. So a mum in Northern Australia killed 12 of her own children and one of her nieces with a knife.
Yep.
If they have the intent, they will find the ways to do it.
Hey, thank you for the call, Ellen.
Well, hold on. So when you started this, you sort of pointed out that you are calling from a largely communist country at this point. Now, would you say that has been...
Pseudo-communist.
Yeah, pseudo-communist. Now, I know I heard a lot of the stories about how awful the lockdowns were during the propagandemic, as I call it. Now, do you consider that to be partially caused by the inaccessibility of firearms in terms of holding your government accountable?
I got to be really careful what I say.
I don't blame
you. No, I think that we are beyond that point now. I think Australia as a whole, the people in Australia as a whole, we're beyond that. I think we follow blindlessly until a certain point, and then we get sick at jack of it, and then we protest. So. And this is a classic example. So Victoria, which is behind China, was the one state in Australia and in the world that had the most lockdowns and for the longest time, behind China.
Right.
They re-elected the premier of that state, which is what's the United States governor, equivalent to the governor. They re-elected him again for another term, and he was in charge during that period. So that's how blindless people are here, and it's programs like you that I've found, and then because I have friends in the US that are libertarians as well, that have really opened up my mind, and I'm starting to educate a lot more people. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you for the call, Ellen, and we appreciate you. We'd love to have more folks like you down under, as they say.
Making calls. By the way, I just looked it up. It's 1:30 in the afternoon on Sunday there in Australia.
So it's a midday show.
We're doing the middays in Australia.
I think it just goes to show politics being downstream of culture in this case, where they have changed the culture to where they are obedient, and both of these are effects of that change.
Yeah, she made a nice point about the decision to kill comes before the weapon selection choice as well, furthering the point. 603-283-6160. More Free Talk Live is on the way.
We have some good news. The indictments against Ross Ulbricht in the District of Maryland were dismissed with prejudice, meaning they can never be refiled. This is especially good because those indictments contain the only charge ever made that Ross engaged in murder for hire. This was a serious allegation that Ross Ulbricht denies. It was never prosecuted or ruled on by a jury, but was trumpeted by the federal government and the media as if it were proven fact. The Maryland court held these indictments for almost 5 years, poisoning Ross's case and leaving him under a cloud of unproven allegations. As explained in Ross's appeal to the Supreme Court, the fact that the judge used these allegations to give Ross a draconian sentence of double life without parole violated his Sixth Amendment right to a jury trial. Judges are required to issue sentences based on convictions decided by a jury, not unproven allegations never even charged at trial. Although this is a positive development, the dropped indictment will not set Ross free. Now, a presidential pardon is Ross's only hope of freedom. Sign the petition at freeross.org. freeross.org.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Nick Harper with the Week in Review. This was the week that US and Russia agreed to a prisoner swap, which brought US basketball star Brittany Griner back to America after a 10-month detention. The White House secured her release in exchange for Russian arms trafficker Viktor Bout, who was serving a 25-year sentence in a US prison. Griner flew back to her home state of Texas, and FSN's Tony Waterman was there for her arrival in San Antonio.
Brittany Griner touching down here in San Antonio in the early hours of Friday morning. She has since been transferred to the Brooke Army Medical Center here behind me, where she is undergoing a routine medical evaluation before being reunited with her family. Her wife Sherelle and her parents are expected to be here for that reunion, but today is really just day one in what is going to very likely be a long journey.
This week, Germany carried out a major police operation which saw dozens of suspected domestic terrorists arrested by police. Investigators said a far-right group was planning to storm the country's parliament and seize power. FSN's Trent Murray sent this report from Berlin.
25 suspects were arrested during the dawn raids, which occurred early Wednesday across 11 different states in Germany. The country's Prosecutor General said that the arrests were part of a large anti-terror operation which was investigating a suspected terror network from the Reichsbürger movement. They went on to say that there was suspicion that the group was planning an armed attack on, quote, constitutional or government buildings.
In the US, Democrat Raphael Warnock won the Senate runoff election in Georgia, a win that gave President Joe Biden's party an outright majority in the upper house of Congress. It also provided more evidence of a changing political map in the US, as FSN's Kate Fisher reported from Washington.
For decades, the states of Florida and Ohio have carried the most sway when it comes to crowning American presidents. But Democrat Raphael Warnock's win in the previously safe Republican state of Georgia is another indicator that the road to the presidency will take a different route in 2024. Political strategists predict Georgia, Arizona, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania and Wisconsin will be crucial to deciding who goes to the White House.
This week saw the first episodes of a documentary series about Prince Harry and his wife Meghan released on Netflix. FSN's Julia Chapman sent this report from London.
In the first 3 episodes of the series, Harry and Meghan describe their love story. The Duke of Sussex says he was looking for someone who could take on the baggage of being a royal, with all the scrutiny that entails. He describes how life was turned upside down for Meghan when they went public with their relationship. Harry describes his wife as being similar to his mother, Princess Diana, saying both are full of compassion.
From Bureaus Worldwide, this is FSN.
Our Matrix server is about as free as internet chat can be. Join the existing rooms or create your own at chat.freetalklive.com.
Welcome back. It is the Saturday night edition of Free Talk Live. I am your host, the Reverend Captain Kickass. Joining me tonight,
Peakless Mountaineer
and Mark Edge.
Ian Freeman has the night off. We've been talking a lot.
I do hear it. The newsroom-esque.
It does that sound.
Before we go on, we have more of your calls to get to. I teased this article, so we should mention it. This is from Smithsonian.org. A spoonful of sugar helps the radioactive oatmeal go down. When MIT and Quaker Oats paired up to conduct experiments on unsuspecting young boys. I'll get a couple paragraphs out here quickly, and then we'll go back to your calls and thoughts. When Fred Boyce and dozens of other boys joined Science Club at Ferndale State School in 1949, it was more about the perks than the science. Club members scored tickets to Boston Red Sox games, trips off the school grounds, gifts like Mickey Mouse watches, and lots of free breakfasts. But Fernald wasn't an ordinary school, and the free breakfasts from the Science Club weren't your average bowl of cereal. The boys were being fed Quaker oatmeal laced with radioactive tracers. The Fernald State School, originally called the Massachusetts School for the Feeble-Minded, housed mentally disabled children along with those who had been abandoned by their parents. Conditions at the school were often brutal. Staff deprived boys of meals, forced them to do manual labor, and abused them. Boyce, who lived there after being abandoned by his family, was eager to join the science club. He hoped the scientists in their positions of authority might see the mistreatment and put an end to it. We didn't know anything at the time, Boyce said of the experiments. We just thought we were special. Learning the truth about the club felt like a deep betrayal. The boys didn't find out the whole story about their contaminated cereal for another 4 decades. During a stretch between the late 40s and early 50s, Robert Harris, a professor of nutrition at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, led 3 different experiments involving 74 Fernald boys aged 10 to 17. As part of the study, the boys were fed oatmeal and milk laced with radioactive iron and calcium. In another experiment, scientists directly injected the boys with radioactive calcium. We could talk more about this. We teased it in hour number 1 and hour number 2. I wanted to at least mention, I had no idea. I have not heard this story. I thought I heard all the stories of government doing all sorts of horrendous and heinous things to unsuspecting children, like Tuskegee experiment comes to mind, stuff like that. We talk about that kind of stuff all the time. I had not heard about these, special boys being fed radioactive breakfast.
I'd like to point out that Quaker Oats has at no time in its existence ever been affiliated with the Religious Society of Free Friends.
Oh.
And I'd like to point out that for every story that you hear about what awful things the government has done, there's at least 10 stories you didn't hear.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, as a matter of fact. Let's go to your calls and thoughts. We've got Crichton calling from Kentucky. Crichton, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yeah, listening to that article you just read just depresses me.
Yeah, right?
Hearing that was new and on me, too, and I thought I was pretty educated on the misadventures of government. But I wanted to call in and talk about, the topic that's been running is guns.
Okay.
I grew up in a gun-free home.
Okay.
And when I went in the military and came out, my family was like, "You're a gun nut now." Buy guns. And I had guns. I still have guns. And I bought my oldest daughter her first rifle at 12, and her younger brother, also a rifle at 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I took them to Project Appleseed, which is a
Do they still have that?
Yes,
okay.
It's still a thing.
Gun training course.
The civilian marksmanship program sponsored by the United States government itself, and it's mostly voluntary, and they teach you an enormous amount of history. It's meant for children, and they do a wonderful job teaching history regarding the Revolutionary War and events surrounding the Revolutionary War. And they also taught my children how to shoot better than I can, and I learned in the Marine Corps. And my daughter grew up, and then when she was 19, she became a camp counselor at a kids' summer camp down south, and she was the only female range safety officer while she was there, so the entire time she was there. And today, I don't have to worry about my children. The idea that that parents worry about their daughters as they venture out into the world. I don't have to worry about my daughter, because accosting my daughter would be a very dangerous thing.
Yeah. I would like to make an analogy here, too, because I grew up with a relative who was deathly afraid of cars. She would not get her driver's license. She would, she would freeze up every time she would get into the driver's seat of a car, even if it was just to sit. She did not like riding in cars at all. She had to go somewhere. She was, sort of skittish, and she'd be a bit of a backseat, side seat driver, slow down, speed up, or, that kind of a thing. Now, if you take that and apply it to guns, right, it's just a thing. That's all it is. Right? The way that she eventually overcame her fear of cars was by actually getting behind the wheel of a car on like some farmland on a big dirt, unplowed, it's in the rotation of a farm field. So like she didn't have to be afraid of like crashing into something or braking too hard and that kind of a thing. One of the other relatives, took her out and said, okay, we're going to overcome this fear. And so to me, anybody who says that they're deathly afraid of guns should immediately go to something like this. What was it called? Project Appleseed?
Project Appleseed.
Go to something like this and at least familiarize themselves with the weaponry. Get one in your hand, unloaded, right? Learn about it, right? Because it'll take the fear away. Once you learn about the thing, the fear goes away.
And everybody that I've ever seen this happen to really loves it. Because it's essentially, punching holes in paper with firecrackers, right? Yeah. It's fun. I was recently in Prague, and I went with some Europeans, the vast majority of whom had never fired a weapon in their lives.
Wow.
And, we went out and we put some holes in paper. And by the way, I did represent America well. I had some nice groupings. I fell short to the former tank commander, but I came in second.
Sure.
Nice. Yeah, so quick shout out to the rifle, archery, muzzleloader, and shotgun program in the Boy Scouts and affiliated. They were certainly helpful to my upbringing. And so a car is a very dangerous and powerful piece of equipment.
Yeah.
And in many countries, ordinary citizens do not use them.
Right. We hear about things in the news like, some guy driving a van plowed into a crowd. right? But we don't hear people calling to outlaw cars and vans because of that,
We
right?
do not.
Some will.
Yeah. Hey, Crichton, thank you for the call. We appreciate it. 603-283-6160 is the number if you want to join us. Let's go to Major Payne calling from Michigan. Major, you're on Free Talk Live.
Hey, yeah, Mark, I totally agree with you. Gun control is hit your target. One shot, one kill. That's merciful.
So since we're going to talk about it real quick, Major Payne, I got to fire this MP5 platform thing called a Scorpio. Ooh. It's got the red dot, but not the kind that like shines on the wall, but the red dot where you sort of look through the scope and you see the dot on the thing you want to shoot.
Yeah.
And anybody can pick that up and be a marksman.
Yeah.
At it was about call it 20 meters.
Yeah.
My God, that thing was just easy to shoot.
I got to shoot one of those, what you're talking about, the red dots. Some folks here in New Hampshire have a range on their property, and I was invited to that, and somebody had one of these. I was like, here, try this out. And I'm like, wow, this is incredibly easy to learn.
Before there was any light optics at all, we had pulled a scope, a thick bottom post, and a short crosshair that was very thin.
Hey,
and it was
Major, I know you have more to say. Do you want to hang on?
Please, yes.
All right, stand by. We'll bring the Major back. 603-283-6160. More of your calls and thoughts. We've got time to get you in. If you call now, the final segment of Free Talk Live is next.
The Shire Free Church offers a sanctuary to those seeking an escape from state churches.
The Shire Free Church is an interfaith, diverse group of people that may not share identical theological beliefs.
As a member in or minister of the Shire Free Church, you are a sovereign individual and may be the faith of your choice.
We don't claim to have all of the answers.
We are open to all peaceful people.
We want to learn from each other.
What unifies the Shire Free Church and its diverse members is peace,
love,
and liberty. There are many paths to God, one for every individual.
The Shire Free Church does not define a specific path beyond these parameters that must be your foundation.
Peace as your way.
Love as your guide.
And liberty as your light.
Learn more at church.shiresociety.com.
That's church.shiresociety.com.
Looking for a great real estate investment? Consider New Hampshire, which is ground zero for the Liberty Movement. Your first call should be to Mark Worden from Porcupine Real Estate. He's more than just a real estate agent. He's your New Hampshire concierge. Where are the best places to live? Do you want farm, city, the burbs, or forest? Do you want a duplex or multifamily building so that renters pay your mortgage? There are homes in all price ranges in New Hampshire, and Mark can help with financing too. Invest in liberty and property. Mark Worden can help.
PorcupineRealEstate.com.
Tired of cancel culture? Sick of mega tech corporations holding an axe over your head? Join the LRN.FM Matrix chat server. It's self-hosted, so no one else can tell us what to do or say. Don't like the existing channels? You can make your own. You can even connect into some of our channels from other Matrix servers. It's federated. For the full LRN.FM Matrix experience, though, you should join our server via the step-by-step instructions at chat.lrn.fm. Chat.lrn.fm. Why did you move to the Shire?
I moved here to the Shire because there's other people around who take liberty just as seriously as I do.
I moved to the Shire because I saw videos of people challenging authority and thought that I could get support myself. It called to me, like, do this, right now.
I wanted to be around people like me who got it, and once I got here, I knew there was nowhere else that I wanted to be.
I've always wanted to change the world, so I moved to the Shire to join people who were actually working towards doing the same thing.
The people here are awesome, loving, and positive. It was for the adventure and for the feeling of something important is happening here, and I just wanted to come to sort of be part of that.
Visit shiresociety.com to read and sign the Shire Society Declaration and learn the reasons why, if you love liberty, you should immigrate to the Shire. Plus, connect with others via the forum at shiresociety.com. That's shiresociety.com. If you want to know the latest about Free Talk Live before we go on the air, all you need to decide is how you want it delivered. It's your choice. Visit news.freetalklive.com to receive our usually weekly news updates by email. Plus, we have a Twitter account at twitter.freetalklive.com, and you can follow us on the decentralized Mastodon platform at toot.freetalklive.com. So please follow us at toot.freetalklive.com and sign up for our emails at news.freetalklive.com.
Have you had enough of the big-name web hosting services that are long on promises but short on bleeding-edge features, uptime, and customer service? Try Agorist Hosting, the agile web host that offers full concierge service from website redesign, full e-commerce solutions, custom apps for your Shopify store, IPFS integration, and more. Agorist Hosting is ready to take your web presence into the future. To get started, head over to agoristhosting.com.
You can stick it to the man and big tech. Join our FTL social mastodon at social.freetalklive.com.
It's the final segment of tonight's edition of Free Talk Live. Moments remain. We've got some calls on hold. We'll get to those momentarily. If you missed out on any of tonight's program, go visit freetalklive.com, where you can explore the archives, hear all of our back catalog of, well, I mean, going back decades even, of all of the shows. But we also have, in about 45 minutes or so at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, Beard Talk Live. That is the continuation, a fork, if you will, of Free Talk Live, where we do an internet-only stream over at watch.freetalklive.com. It is uncensored, so you have to go there to watch and or listen. If you missed the live program, that's fine. We will, of course, release it in RSS on our feeds and on all of the places in our archives, that kind of thing. So if you're a listener that way, you're welcome to do so. But if you want to join the live program, it is call in and it is uncensored. That'll be 10:30 p.m. tonight. Beard Talk Live. Don't miss it. I talked briefly about this article from the Smithsonian about these children who were fed radioactive oatmeal in their special school for some period of time without anybody's permission, of course, not their parents or anything like that. The government was indeed involved. So was Quaker Oats and that kind of a thing. So I've posted that up to all of our social medias. So if you're over on, what do we broadcast on? Telegram, on, what's the other one? Matrix, yeah, the Element. Twitter, stuff like that. You can find Mastodon. That story there. It is a horrifying story, and I apologize that we did none of it any justice here tonight on this show. Peakless, you wanted to mention something about the Federal Reserve as well.
They're having a meeting this week, and the market thinks that they're going to increase rates by a lower amount than they have been, and I think that the market is going to be sorely disappointed and have quite a downturn when it happens. So
you're making a prediction.
That is my prediction.
So tell me what is the prediction?
So my prediction is that the market is currently pricing that they'll have a half a point increase instead of 3/4 like they've been doing. I think they're going to do another 3/4 point increase, and the market is going to flip out for a minute when they do.
Okay.
All right. Let's go back to Major Payne. Major, you're back on Free Talk Live. What were you calling about?
Good God, I hate it when the market flips.
Make it quick.
Let's see. Gun control, right? That's where we were.
Yep.
That is where we were.
By what?
I've always been a harvester. I don't believe in letting a critter suffer.
Okay.
Right? But we all have to, we are the dominant species of the planet we were put upon. Right? They have reduced me through their legal BS to hunting in Michigan with a club. That's what they classify a black powder gun as.
A club?
One shot, one kill.
Wow.
That's all you got. I can throw a round ball.
What about, can you like throw hatchets or bow and arrow or crossbow?
Dude, man, I I haven't practiced for years, but when I was a young warthog, I could stick. I don't know if you know the difference between a full blade axe and a camp axe.
Sure.
Camp axe is about a 3/4 handle.
Yep.
I could stick a camp axe from 35 feet.
Nice.
Soundly
They're
enough,
unwieldy, yeah.
stand upon it and get to the limb of the tree.
All right. Hey, Major, thanks for the call, and feel free to call back on Beard Talk Live if you're so inclined. The old warthog himself, Major Payne from Michigan. Moving right along, let's go to Sarah in New Mexico. Sarah, you're on Free Talk Live.
Yes. So I just want to report that we have a high flu activity here in New Mexico, more so than the average year. So the average is like 3% of the population, and this year we have 14%.
14%?
Yeah, 14% of the flu, people have flu symptoms, and so I made sure I got my flu shot like first week of October. But I'm very grateful that many people are wearing masks in public places, indoor places, voluntarily. They're doing it, so I'm very appreciative of that.
You know that masks don't reduce the spread of anything, right?
I believe that it does. I believe that it really does help a little bit.
Why do you believe that? Have you read
nothing.
something that tells you that? Because everything I've read tells me that it doesn't.
Well, according to my belief, that I think that it does,
I'm not talking about beliefs there. I'm talking about facts and evidence. Like facts and evidence say that the masks really don't do anything.
So what I would say to that is the flu isn't an airborne virus. It comes from contact with something that's come from your mouth, right? So having a mask on for some people means they're touching their face a lot more, which could mean that they're more likely to spread the illness farther and wider. The masks were, if they made sense, they made sense for COVID-19, not for the flu.
So I'd like to point out that they are perfect breeding grounds for bacteria, and bacteria reduces your body's ability to fend off viruses because it's too busy fighting bacteria. And it is a perfect transmission device for all manner of nasty bugs by both touching your mask and then touching something else, or just aerosolizing whatever you happen to cough into your mask.
Sarah, thanks for the call. Moving right along, let's go to Jerome in South Carolina.
Hey, when it comes to medical advice about COVID and colds, I'm not listening to you guys.
Okay.
But what I want to talk about, was this University of Kentucky story that came out this week, and how the media is just constantly trying to bury this thing. This is one of the most disturbing stories.
What's the headline,
I've ever
Jerome?
seen. Excuse me. This girl, she was a college student. She was just berated with racial epithets and racial remarks by a white female college student at the University of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And the only time I heard about it was one time this week, because all the other major news networks are trying all they can to bury this story. And she took.
Well, the story is pretty widely reported here. Once you said it, now I hadn't heard about it, but I mean, it's all over the place. But okay, so somebody gets called racial epithets. Should that be national news, and for how long?
Look, after what I saw, it should be national headlines.
Okay.
If you're in college, you're not there to hear stuff like that. You're there to get an education. Why is she saying all this stuff to this girl? Huh? Why was she saying
Sounds like a person that has. It's hard to say, but it sounds like she was really having a bad day if she was taking this out on somebody else.
She was drunk, but you know what?
Okay.
I go back to the old saying I heard. What's in your heart will eventually come out of your mouth. Okay, that's what I believe.
That's true.
She meant to, she's been holding on. That's how she talks like that around her friends and family, and she just couldn't hold it in any longer. Okay. And that was just disgraceful the way she treated that other girl.
There are people that use racial epithets widely, and I find it it makes me very uncomfortable, and I will usually tell them about it when I hear it.
Agreed.
You know, I was like at a restaurant the other day, and I was sitting on the bench across the street from the restaurant, and there was these people playing this music, this rap music, And it was just filthy, disgusting, disgraceful. I said, how can you degrade your culture like that? Why would you spend money on stuff? I wouldn't even listen to stuff like that. I would never put money in nothing like that. It's just disgraceful, man. People take freedom of speech way too far.
Yeah, that's
way too far. Okay.
I'm reading the article here. It says she used a racial slur. Well, I'm going to just jump to a conclusion here. Over 200 times in about 10 minutes, and that does sound like a rap concert to me. And
it does sound like a rap show.
I made a joke. I said it sounds like a rap concert to me.
That's not. Look, I wouldn't go near. I wouldn't go near a rap concert.
I know you wouldn't, Jerome, and I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. I'm from the Bill Cosby's, leg of this.
Don't say Bill Cosby.
I know you're not supposed to.
Don't say Bill Cosby.
But I'm just saying, Bill had opinions on this that we shouldn't use that word, right? Oprah has opinions. We shouldn't use that word.
Bill Cosby is the biggest damn hypocrite you probably ever see. I'm sure there are others, but he's a disgrace, man. He's going around talking to people all kind of way, and look what he's got in his past. Huh? How can he talk about anybody? He's just as bad as the people he tries to criticize.
I love how Jerome gets outraged about everything.
He is his perpetual outrage.
Dime on rap music. I don't even listen to that, man.
Hey, Jerome, thanks for the call.
It's certainly very disgraceful, and it's very sad. I don't know if it's that newsworthy, but, I mean, I am a free speech absolutist at the same time.
We are out of time. Thank you to all of our callers. Thank you to Mark at Peakless Mountaineer for joining me tonight. In about a half hour, we'll be kicking things off with the uncensored Beard Talk Live over at watch.freetalklive.com. Thanks and peace.
What if you want to hear the latest episode of Free Talk Live, but all you have is your phone, you forgot to download our archive, and you have no data connection? You can call our Listen line at 641-793-0191. That's a long-distance number, so you may incur charges. If not, listen as long as you want. 641-793-0191. The Free Talk Live Listen line, 641-793-0191.
Do you feel like your nation, state, or community no longer holds your values? Have you dreamt of a place where people agree that liberty is important and are free to pursue their projects so long as they respect the property of others? There are many people just like you that are discovering freeprivatecities.com. Their social media links are at the upper right of the page at freeprivatecities.com. All skill levels will be needed when the first of the Free Private Cities opens.